Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Umar Johnson, and I am a school psychologist and doctor of clinical psychology. In addition to that, I hold degrees in political science and education. I am here at the historic St. Paul's College. This beautiful campus, 135 acres of which I hope to make the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey RBG International Leadership Academy for African Children. This college, St. Paul's, was opened on September the 24th, 1888 by a contemporary of the great Booker T. Washington. That great ancestor's name was James Solomon Russell. Father Russell opened this college with less than a dozen students. And by the time it reached its zenith, St. Paul's College owned more than 1,000 acres of land and housed more than 1,000 African children. But unfortunately, last summer, June of 2013, the board of directors of this college graduated the last class of students from St. Paul's College. I'm hoping that you will help me keep this college in the hands of the African American community. I have a plan for this campus. I want to turn this campus into the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy. There's a war in this country against black boys. I don't have to tell you, only 1 out of every 4 African American boys will graduate from high school. I don't have to tell you that 2 out of every 4 African American boys at some point in his life will be under the supervision of America's criminal justice system. I don't have to tell you that there's a school to prison pipeline that runs out the back door of the school into the front door of the prison. I want to stop that. And I want you to help Dr. Umar Johnson stop that by donating to my fundraiser, by helping me and our ancestors raise the money necessary to acquire St. Paul's campus. We need this 135 acres for our children. We have the dormitories. We have the gymnasium. We have the lecture halls. We have the cafeteria. We have a beautiful student center. I want this school to be a blueprint, a role model to every other independent African school in the world, to show them that African children are not the intellectual inferiors of European Americans, to show them that our children want to learn as much as anyone else. I'm tired of the phone calls from our mothers and fathers crying about what's being done to their children. I'm tired of special education when it's not necessary. I'm tired of ADHD diagnoses and conduct disorder diagnoses and oppositional defiance diagnoses and learning disability diagnoses and emotional disturbance diagnoses. I'm tired, and I want you to be tired with me, of our children being forced to exist in a system that was not designed to educate them in the first place. I want to give them a heaven on earth. I want to give them a home away from home. And I want St. Paul's College to be that place. Imagine a school where children don't have to be suspended. Imagine a school where your child never gets expelled. Imagine a school where your child never gets misdiagnosed and put in special education. Imagine a school where you don't have to worry about the teachers trying to force you to put your son or daughter on dangerous psychiatric medication. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, community stakeholders of the African race, I implore you, I beg you, I summon you, and I petition you to donate to this cause. Donate to this fundraiser. Let us show the world that we care enough about our children and enough about our history and enough about our ancestors to keep St. Paul's College in the hands of the African American community and in the hands of Dr. Umar Johnson and in the interests of African children and under the skies of Almighty God and our ancestors. Help me keep this college alive and keep the dream and keep the dream of its founder, James Solomon Russell, alive forever.
Context of White Supremacy. Justice Gus T Renegade in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the system of racism, white supremacy. Today's date, Tuesday, June 3rd, 2014. So I have been told. Thanks to all of the folks tuning into the broadcast. I hope you all are getting constructive information. We just had Dr. Frances Cress-Welsing on the program Sunday. Great pleasure to follow that up, having one of our other great scholars who has devoted a lot, if not all, of his great intellect, talents, skills to the number one problem facing Black people, non-white people in the known universe, our eternal enemies, racist woman, racist man, racist child. Looking forward to getting more updates, particularly folks who have been tuning into the broadcast. And that's something that we have been focused on quite a bit over the last 6 to 8 months with regards to education. The number, and I mean, it has been a litany. I'm looking forward to asking the doctor myself. To me, education under racism, white supremacy has always been horrific. But at least to me, it seems over the last 6 to 8 months, it has been a gargantuan spike in the number of incidents that are being reported. Not just students. That's one thing that I've emphasized through all of this. Yes, it's been tons of incidents with Black children being tormented, abused, arrested, just everything that you can think of. But it's been Black faculty, Black teachers, Black administrators as well. Who just, it seems like it's just been a huge increase in the number of these incidents of racism being practiced against Black people in all facets of the educational system under white supremacy. His efforts to counter and give us a healthy, constructive alternative. The Frederick Douglass, Marcus Garvey, RBG International Leadership Academy. You can get more information and invest in the project to help him secure St. Paul's College to establish an independent school for Black children. The address, Dr. Umar Johnson School.com. There are no additional dots, no slashes. That's all together. The address again is Dr. Umar Johnson School.com, and it's just DR. So DR Umar Johnson School.com. Should be linked if you are listening in at the Black Talk Radio Network. It's linked on Facebook as well. If you get confused, feel free, dial in, let us know. We'll make sure you get the address. But again, it is Dr. Umar Johnson School.com. To get more info, to invest, learn about the project. And definitely, if you have been following the news at all for the last 6 months, I think you would understand the need for this sort of project. With that, we will go ahead and get started. I believe this is his 9th time visiting us on the program. Always look forward to learning. I think he generally encourages folks. You shouldn't just passively listen when he is talking. Break out pen and pad, scrutinize, take notes, write down the information that he is sharing with us. If you have questions, if something doesn't make sense, definitely get on the line, dial in, and ask your question. Looking forward to having a great constructive exchange of views. Blood relative of the great Frederick Douglass, nationally certified school psychologist. Always a treat to have him on the broadcast. Joining us again, as I said, for the 9th time, Dr. Umar Abdullah Johnson. Dr. Umar, are you with us, sir?
Yes, sir, Brother Gus. It's an honor to be back on the show, Context of White Supremacy. Thanks for having me again.
Pleasure is all ours, sir. Really, as I said, a treat. I know a lot of listeners, they always look forward when you are going to be on the program and just get excited to take notes, learn, and hear what you have been up to. Before we get started, I know you stay active and stay out on the road trying to reach as many folks as possible. You want to give an update for where you are going to be the next few months where folks can see you in person?
Certainly. I appreciate that. My next stop will be Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This will be my first time speaking in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, although Pennsylvania is my home state. I will be in Pittsburgh on Saturday, June the 14th. I believe the program starts at 1 and goes until 6 p.m. Anyone who needs information about that lecture can text me following tonight's program, or they can go to Twitter at Dr. Umar Johnson, as well as Instagram at Dr. Umar Johnson. Also on Facebook, Dr. Umar Ifatunde. And at those three sites, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, I have all of the flyers for the upcoming events. So we have Pittsburgh on June the 14th, and then I will be speaking in Allentown, Pennsylvania as well, and I believe that is the 25th of June, Allentown, PA, and I have 2 graduations here in Philadelphia, and then I will be going to Richmond, Virginia for Juneteenth. My first time in Richmond in more than 2 years. I'll be the keynote speaker for the Juneteenth program. That's going to be Friday, June the 20th in Richmond, Virginia. The program starts at 6 p.m. Not only will it be me, but there's an entire program of entertainment and African cultural expression. So it's going to be powerful. And then the next day, I will be joined with your previous guest, the great Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, one of our elder sister master teachers. She and I, along with Baba Dick Gregory, Dr. Claude Anderson, as well as Dr. Anthony Browder, the 5 of us, will be forming a panel discussion for the first Power Talk series, which is going to be held in Washington, D.C. on Saturday, June the 21st from 2 until 6 at the Plymouth Congregational Church in D.C. If anyone's planning on coming to see the Fab Five, you want to buy your ticket as soon as possible because the event is going to sell out. I hear there's a few tickets left. You don't want to wait until you come to the door. This will be the first time all 5 of us, Dr. Welsing, Dr. Browder, Dr. Anderson, myself, and Bobby Dick Gregory will be on the stage at the same time. I've shared the stage with Dr. Browder and Baba Gregory before, but I've never met nor have I co-presented with either Dr. Claude Anderson or Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. So this will be a first in history. And then it's off to Houston, Texas, where I will be speaking in the Black community for the first time. I will be in Houston, Texas on Friday and Saturday, June 27th, June 28th, and then the following weekend, which is the 4th of July weekend, I will be at the Oyotunji African Village, the only authentic African village sanctioned in this country by the Council of Traditional African Spiritual Systems in West Africa. I will be there for the 4th of July. They're having their 3rd annual Pan-African Grassroots Congress. I will probably be there on Friday or Sunday. I'm thinking about going back to Rochester, New York, to read my ancestor Frederick Douglass's 4th of July speech again on the 4th of July, which means I will be going to Oyotunji the day after that. And then it'll be off to Montreal, Quebec, Canada. I will be speaking in Montreal for the first time from July 10th until July 12th. They will be having a teen summit as well as a Dr. Umar Johnson double power lecture in the community. Looking forward to that because I've never been. Other events coming up include the Ebonics Conference in Los Angeles, California, November the 1st. It also looks like I will be in Sacramento, California in October. We also have the Bahamas coming up in September, as Rio de Janeiro in September, as well as Georgia State University in September. And I'll be going back over to London, England, either later this summer or early this fall taking a group trip to Africa, Ghana. Myself and Professor James Smalls will be going to Ghana July 22nd to August the 3rd. Anyone interested in going on that trip should go to the website dreamertours.com. That's DreamerTours, dreamertours.com. We leave on July 22nd from New York. We'll be back on August the 3rd. A very powerful 2-week trip, only $3,200. Dr. Umar makes no money from the trip. We'll be going to the Kwame Nkrumah University, where I will be speaking, the W.E.B. Du Bois Center, Elmina Slave Dungeon, Cape Coast Slave Dungeon. We will be participating or at least attending the Ghanaian Independence Celebration. That's going to be powerful. We'll be going to Kumasi. We'll be taking a boat ride. We'll have the opportunity to shop, to eat, to relax, to go on the beach. It's going to be beautiful. Sessions will be held on dual citizenship, land acquisition, doing business in Africa from abroad. So that's going to be a powerful, very powerful program. And also, I want all your listeners, Brother Gus, to make sure they sign up for my free text message club. And you can do that, brothers and sisters, by texting Dr. Umar on your cell phone to 36,000. It is a free service that allows you to stay in contact with me and keep abreast of all the things that I'm doing. So you simply text DRUMAR without a period or space to 36000. Text Dr. Umar to 36,000. And the last announcement I would make as we prepare to get into the conversation, and that is that I am in the midst of a fundraiser to acquire the St. Paul's College, a historically black college founded by an ancestor of ours who was born into slavery. That college is up for sale, and I've been in communication with the president as well as the realty company has been contracted by the university to sell it. And we're trying to raise, and we have basically until August the 21st to raise the money for St. Paul's College, founded in 1888 by Father James Russell, a good friend of Booker T. Washington. We cannot allow another black college to be turned over to people who are not interested in using those facilities to educate African children. These ancestors struggled, they died, they sacrificed to open these black colleges, and now they're closing down all around the country. Morris Brown was just sold to the city of Atlanta. I hear that Wilberforce is in trouble. I hear that Southern University may possibly be taken over by one of the white universities. Cheney University, the first black college here in Pennsylvania, is also at risk of being turned over to Temple University. And there's about 10 to 15 other black colleges that are either shut down or will soon be shutting down. And it is my goal, Brother Gus, to purchase every last one of those colleges. If they're no longer going to prepare our high school graduates, then they need to be used to prepare our children so that they can become high school graduates. So brothers and sisters, please, and I want to thank Brother Gus for playing the commercial here tonight at the opening of the show. But I want to motivate and encourage everyone who's listening to this show, if you care about African children, beyond lip service, because you know in the conscious community we got a lot of blabbermouths. We got a lot of people who talk big and bad and black power and all this other stuff, but they really don't put their money where their mouths are, and they're really not engaged in any type of constructive nation-building, institution-raising behavior. So if you want to be counted amongst a few of us who are about nation-building, then what better way to participate in nation-building than to help us keep a historically black college under black ownership, and for the purpose of being transformed into a state-of-the-art school for our young people, the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey RBG International Leadership Academy for our children. Please visit drumarjohnsonschool.com, drumarjohnsonschool.com, drumarjohnsonschool.com. My personal website, drumarjohnson.com, is still up and running as well. My phone number, for those who need to text me, please do not text me during the show. is 215-989-9858. Again, 215-989-9858. So far, I've been getting checks in the mail. Every time I go on PayPal, donations are being made. Some are larger than others, but I want to thank everyone for making their donations, whether it was $1 or $500. I've had several brothers and sisters donate $500, which to date has been the largest single donation. So I'm hoping somebody will top that tonight during the course of this show by donating $550 or $600 or $700 or $1,000. We're trying to raise $5 million, and we have 3 months to do it, brothers and sisters. So I'm going to need you to donate not once, but come back and donate every week that you can. If you can't donate every week, donate every pay period. If you can't donate every pay period, donate once a month. We only have 3 months. And what I'm doing, before I be quiet, is I'm imploring everyone who is a supporter of mine on Twitter. I have about 10,000 Twitter supporters, and I'm asking them to donate $1 a day. $1 a day, brothers and sisters, between now and August the 21st is approximately $80. If all 10,000 of my Twitter followers donate $1 a day, which is $80 times 10,000, that will give us almost $1 million. And on Facebook, I have 23,000 supporters. If all 23,000 supporters will give me $1 a day from now until August the 21st, that will be almost $2 million. So we're looking at more than half of the $5 million right there. That's almost $3 million right there. So I'm asking you to give me $1 a day. Are our black boys worth $1 a day? Are our daughters worth $1 a day? I'm asking for $1 a day for 80 days from everyone listening on this show. And I want you to influence your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your coworker, your niece, your nephew, your soror, your frat brother, your lodge brother, your elk brother, your grassroots community brother. I want the Nuwapians, the Hebrews, the guys and herbs, the vegetarian people, the Jehovah Witness, the integrationists, the black nationalists, the Pan-Africanists, and just the regular, unidentified community activists. I need everybody to donate to this cause. I'm hoping we show the world that we care enough about our children to buy this school. We're going to give our babies a heaven on earth, but I can't do it by myself. I need your help. So please, brothers and sisters, go to the website while you're listening to the show tonight, drumarjohnsonschool.com, and give what you can. Thank you, Brother Gus.
Appreciate it. Definitely. The address, again, you can visit it, should be linked at Black Talk Radio Network and on Facebook. But for those, if you're not listening there, again, the address, drumarjohnsonschool.com. Be sure to give it out again as we roll through the program. Really is staying on the same topic. I want to come back to give kind of more details for what the vision is, for what you hope to do with the Frederick Douglass, Marcus Garvey, RBG, International Leadership Academy, but hopefully to motivate people not only to invest in your project so that you can secure your fundraising goals, but also just to understand the importance of this project. You touched on, I said, hey, this is not something that is just relegated to a problem here or there or just one anomaly, just a bad incident. This is a system-wide problem. I've said, I think it has increased significantly over the last 6 to 8 months, maybe in the last year or so. You touched on what's happening with regards to HBCUs and the financial problems that have been well documented, and many of these institutions closing down, just not being supported. I even recall within that time frame, the last 6 to 8 months, even beyond just financially, in terms of, I would call it just smearing these institutions to say, oh my God, they're not even getting the job done anyway. We don't want to invest in them. I remember what was reported at Grambling, where they were saying that some of the athletes there were complaining that the facilities were really bad and there was mold and they weren't being treated well. I think a lot of folks remember what happened down at Florida A&M with the whole quote unquote hazing scandal, where they just kept that played up as though white sororities and white fraternities don't have these exact same problems on a weekly, daily basis. They just kept that in the news to keep that negative association with an predominantly black institution. And then as I was touching on in terms of things that are just happening every day between K through 12, you touched on being in Pennsylvania. One of the, I can't even say surprising. I mean, this is what it means when you say we have eternal enemies. Keep that in mind. This was in Coatesville, Pennsylvania, where it was reported, this is October of 2013, that the former superintendent, not some low-level janitor, not the old cafeteria woman, but the former superintendent, Richard Como, and the former athletic director, Jim Donato, that they were caught. They had been exchanging all of these racist emails. And you can hear some of this content where they go through and just read out what they were saying. But they said that all of the black students, they should just be renamed. We should put them all in the same class and they should be renamed and have nigger as their last name. And then they went on to just itemize it out to be very clear. And they said it should be Roger nigger, Jane nigger, Jackson nigger, Beth nigger. And they just went on and on and on and had a grand old time chucking it up, laughing about all of this. They were forced to resign and they're doing an investigation. But in my opinion, that's just the tip of the iceberg in what our children and faculty members have been experiencing. Even Carolyn Gardner touched on her. She had to discontinue teaching up in Amherst, Massachusetts because she had been targeted repeatedly, threatened, called a nigger, and it caused her so much distress that she couldn't even continue teaching at this predominantly white, and this is a high school up in Amherst, Massachusetts. Have you been seeing this increased attack on black students and faculty, particularly? Go ahead.
Without question, Brother Gus. And first, I would say that this summer right here, 2014, that we're just about to enter, is historic. It's historic even amidst the fact that we're in a state of crisis. And that is because on July the 2nd, which is exactly 30 or 31 days from the day, we will be reflecting and remembering the 1964 Civil Rights Act that was signed into law by former President Lyndon Baines Johnson, July 2nd, 1964. We're at the 50th year of civil rights. It's time for us to critically analyze what it has, or more accurately, has not done for us. May 17th, 1954, the Brown versus Board of Education decision of Topeka, Kansas, that allegedly outlawed school segregation based on race. Well, we remembered and reflected on that on May 17th, 2014, while I was up in Boston, Massachusetts, which was very, very symbolic because it was in Boston, Massachusetts, where white people put forward their greatest resistance to school desegregation and forced busing. And then this summer, on July the 20th, we will be celebrating the 100th year of the creation of the largest black organization of all time, Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. And lastly, Brother Gus, we will be celebrating in December of 2015, a little more than a year from now, 150 years since the close of the Civil War, or since the signing of the 13th Amendment, and I hate to say since the end of slavery, since it really hasn't ended. So this is a very pivotal summer for African people. We have to look at what we've done in 150 years since slavery. We got to look at what we've done in 60 years since school desegregation. We got to look at what we've done in 50 years of civil rights. And we got to look at what we've done in 100 years of revolutionary Pan-African Garveyism. So this is the summer of deep analysis and reflection. And going to your point of dealing with this colossal and gargantuan miseducation machine, the reason things are getting worse, Gus, is because white racism is coming back in its unbridled form. When the Civil Rights Bill was signed in 1964, white people collectively decided to put their silver fist in a velvet glove. In other words, the racism continued, but it was done in a more sophisticated manner. But with the Trayvon Martin situation, which the George Zimmerman acquittal, with the Hurricane Katrina, with the Michael Dunn situation, with all of these other racist acts that we're seeing, Donald Sterling, so forth and so on, the unprecedented unemployment rate of black folks, the unprecedented absence of black teachers from America's teaching staff, female teachers in particular, we're seeing racism come back to its pre-1964 fashion. And why is racism coming back in its pre-1964 or pre-civil rights fashion? Because white people see that black people aren't going to do a damn thing about anything we do. Remember, Brother Gus, whenever racism rose its ugly head against African people, I don't care if it was in slavery, I don't care if it was in Reconstruction, during the Garvey movement, Nation of Islam, Hebrews, Rasta, Black Power, Black Panther, whenever something happened, whenever there was an outcry against our people, we always did something, even if it was only demonstration. We came out collectively in a very large, well-organized force. Even if it was non-violently, we did something. But now, Brother Gus, black people have gotten so consumed with themselves. Black people have gotten so hypnotized with the so-called post-racial America, which is one of the most devastating psychological weapons against black people, because as the world and as the American social order is plotting our extermination more now than ever before, isn't it ironic when we are so close to extermination that there's a campaign to make us feel that we are more American than we've ever been? And it takes me back to Master Teacher Nili Fuller, the elder, who talked about the various stages of white supremacy and how it establishes itself and maintains itself and expands itself and refines itself. And right now, Brother Gus, as we approach the middle of the 21st century, the second half of civil rights, what we're seeing is the refinement stage of white supremacy, which means that the new racism is to make it appear that there is no racism. In fact, we're being brainwashed by the television, the internet, the radio, and the TV, okay, and all other forms of media into believing that America is post-racial, and now the only issue that America has is sexism. And not only is it sexism, it's only sexism and discrimination against homosexuals and lesbians. So America is claiming that it solved its racial problem, and now the only thing left is to solve its homosexual problem, which takes us back to military science. What is the foundational law of military science? Confuse the victim and make your intentions appear to be something other than what they are. And that's why America spends $500 billion annually, $500 billion every year on mind control by way of its media misinformation machine. As I always say, why don't we have a totally black-owned movie studio in Hollywood? Why not? Why don't we have a black movie distribution company? Now, we have Tyler Perry, but he doesn't distribute his own movies. He goes to one of the white majors. The reason we don't have an independent black movie distribution company of that level is because they have to make sure they don't allow any movie to hit the theaters that will wake African people up. A dramatization of what we've been through. Now, we've had the documentary, very effective, Hidden Colors, as well as others, but those are more intellectual. We're talking about a dramatization of the black experience that is so gut-wrenching, so heart-quenching, that it forces black people to wake the hell up and do something about their situation. Brother Gus, they are suspending and expelling black children from school like it ain't no tomorrow. In fact, there was a study that was just done last month, United States Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights, did a comprehensive analysis of the state of public education in America. They looked at all 50 states, and they found exactly what I've been talking about in my book, Psycho-Academic Holocaust. One of the most interesting findings of this report, Brother Gus, is that half of the high schools in America that serve a predominantly black student population, half of them do not offer a math class above Algebra 1. Now, most states require 4 years of math in order to get a diploma. Well, if you need 4 years of math in order to get a diploma, and your high school only offers Algebra 1 without Algebra 2, without calculus, without physics, without trig, you can't graduate. Now, why is this interesting, Brother Gus? Because we're always hearing people, including Negroes, and let me just throw this sidebar in. One of white supremacy's greatest victories over Africans is that it trained us to defend it. Let me say that again. White supremacy has trained Africans to defend white supremacy. You have never seen in the annals of world history a victimized population that will psychologically, of its own free will, come to the defense of its oppressor without being requested and without being paid. But black people do it every single day. In fact, rarely do I give a seminar, rarely am I on a radio show, a TV show, rarely do I write an article where I don't get a rebuttal, Brother Gus, not from white people, but from black people who are not even being paid to defend the system. They do it voluntarily. And so the reason the racism is back so strong is because white folks are looking out at black America and they're saying, we own all these leaders. Jesse, we own him. Al, we own him. All the Afrocentric scholars work at white universities and love their job. They're not going to do nothing. Who do we have who commands the minds of the masses, who would be willing to stand up and challenge us for what we're doing to African people? Nobody. So the reason the racism is back is because there's no longer a need to hide, because black resistance is at an all-time low. Let me say it again. Black resistance to white supremacy is at an all-time low globally, Brother Gus. It is low in Europe. It is low in Asia. It is low in the Caribbean. It is low in Central and South America. It is low in Canada. It is low in Africa. It is low here. So white people smell blood. When you watch a good boxing match, when you look at Floyd Mayweather Jr., what does he do? For 10 rounds, he bounces around with his opponent, jabbing him up, jabbing him up, jabbing him up, wearing down his resistance slowly. That's what white folk been doing with black folks since the Civil Rights Bill. 1964, jabbing us up. 1974, jabbing us up. 1984, jabbing us up. 1994, jabbing us up. 2004, jabbing us up. Now we in the 8th round. What does Floyd Mayweather begin to do once he can tell that he didn't jab his opponent up enough, that the opponent is punch-struck and can't even come to his senses? Now he delivers the knockout punch. And we are in the 9th round, Brother Gus. I would argue the 12th round. White folks smell. They believe they got us just where they want us. And so it's no longer to hide the racism, because we got to get these niggas out of our country. That's where we are, sisters. We are in a state of crisis. And as I've said on previous shows with my brother Gus, the reason Obama was put in office was, number one, to recolonize Africa's resources, and number two, white supremacy, to give white supremacy 8 years to perfect its Negro extermination campaign under the cloak of post-racial America. Obama was put in there just long enough, 8 years, for them to perfect their African extermination machine, so that when Obama leaves office, irregardless of his replacement, whether it's Hillary Clinton, Governor Christie, Jeb Bush, they will be ready for the knockout blow. We are as responsible for our condition as is the white man, because your oppressor cannot oppress you without your participation. As my ancestor Frederick Douglass said, those who are whipped the easiest. Douglass, a slave at one time, said those who are whipped the easiest are whipped the most. And we are going to continue being whipped economically, whipped psychologically, whipped sociologically, whipped culturally, whipped sexually, whipped in every other way until we begin to stand up and fight our oppressor just like Frederick Douglass did 150 years ago.
Context of white supremacy. While you were sharing that information, I recalled I took Algebra 1 in 8th grade. I don't know what that would have meant for me if I was going to high school that only offered math up to Algebra 1. I have no idea, but I think I would have been hurting pretty bad. At any rate, talking about this advanced weaponry, and particularly looking that I saw that white people spent a great deal of time and energy mawkishly talking about, oh my gosh, it's been the anniversary, 60 years, Brown versus Board of Education, and look how far we've come. I think even buying into that whole post-racial, and it's not that bad, and they had all those photographs of Elizabeth Eckford and Little Rock Nine, and oh, we've come so far, you couldn't imagine something like that happening today. Charter schools, I think that is another aspect of how all of this is playing out. They just had a pretty large report. I'll post it on Facebook and tweet it out so folks can check it out. You mentioned Katrina. The schools, a lot of them, particularly schools in predominantly black areas, were devastated with the breach of the levees back in 2005. They are moving to an all charter school system in New Orleans starting this upcoming school year. This is something that I think a lot of people have concerns about. What is your view and how charter schools are going to factor into this next refinement stage of racism, white supremacy?
Excellent question. Excellent question. White supremacy rules supreme over African people intellectually, not because they're smarter, but they are more thorough thinkers and planners than we are. White people plan well into the next century. I don't know of a white institution that doesn't have a 10-year plan. I don't know of one. I don't know of a white school. I don't know of a white business. I don't know of a white politician or government or city that doesn't at least have a 10-year plan. Real estate is done in cycles of 10. Politics is done in cycles of 4, 8, 12. Most institutions of white supremacy are for-planning institutions versus in the black community where we plan for the next year only what we can immediately see. We lack foresight. White supremacy is king because it is king of foresight. Now, how does this relate to the conversation on charter schools? Charter schools were birthed in 1990 when a group of white people began to protest the quality of education that the children were getting. But what they were really protesting, Brother Gus, was the fact that they were poor and couldn't afford to send their kids to a private school. And as a result of that, their children had to go to school next door and in the next seat with black children. So poor white people and working class white people put pressure on the State Department of Education to do something that would give them the right to use public money for a private education. But the state said we can't do that. It is illegal to take public money and use it for a private purpose. So they said, we'll meet you halfway. We will give you the money, but we're not going to call the schools private. We're going to call the schools charter. Now, you're still going to have to follow the same rules that the public school follow because you're still a publicly funded school. You're just an alternative. By law, the charter school is an alternative public school. It must follow the same rules as the public school. But you are given the freedom to modify and upgrade the learning process to the extent you feel necessary to maximize the learning acquisition for children. So, for example, if you want a year-round charter school, you can do that. Why? Because that's not a violation of state law. If you want to add extra classes, you can do that. That's not a violation of state law. You want to have all boys in some classes, all girls in some classes, you can do that. Or you want to have a longer school day, you can do that. You want to use a fancy curriculum, you can do that. So the difference, Brother Gus, is that the charter school is allowed to change the curricular culture in order to maximize student benefit. However, the catch-22 is what? Since you are charter, you still fall under the immediate supervision of the local school district where your school resides. So take Philadelphia. And by the way, for the record, Philadelphia has the largest amount of charter schools in the country. No city has more charter schools than Philadelphia. New Orleans will soon be the first fully charterized school district in the country. But Philadelphia, by virtue of its size, has the most. There's more than 60 charter schools in Philadelphia, and we're going to talk about why. Now, because you fall under the supervision of the state, Brother Gus, your children in the charter school are still required to take the state assessments. This is one of the biggest requirements that keep charter schools under public domain. When you have a private school, your children do not have to take private assessments. When we open up the Fred Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, they will not have to take the public assessment. Parochial school, you do not have to take the state assessment. Charter schools must take them because they are public, which automatically takes us to how charter schools are being used as a weapon. Brother Gus, charter schools were not supposed to benefit black children. They were supposed to benefit white children. But obviously, when black people started seeing these charter schools pop up, like here in Philadelphia, where we have some of the first ones in the nation, they said, okay, we want a charter school as well. So states reluctantly granted black people charters because they didn't want to be hit with a discrimination lawsuit. But they said, there's a way we can use this to our benefit. Now, I want the listening audience to listen up really well when I discuss this. How does giving black people charter schools work for white supremacy? Couple ways. Number one, it helps to liquefy, remove, and shut down public schools. If Dr. Umar Johnson moves to New York City, okay, or let's just say Philadelphia, where I live, I'll open up a charter school in Philadelphia, 500 students. Guess where them children are going to come from? The local public schools. By virtue of me opening up one school, Gus, I basically influenced the shutting down of two schools. Why? Because many of the public schools are already populated with students by virtue of other charter schools that have opened. So you have a couple of schools that are at half capacity. Once Dr. Umar opens up his school, them children, naturally, their parents are going to want them to come to Dr. Umar's school. And so as a result of them giving me a charter, they will be able to do what? Shut down 2 or 3 public schools. And then what do they do with the shut down public schools? They sell them to white developers who turn them into houses, businesses, hotels, mini mansions, which does what? Raise the property value in the ghetto and feed the gentrification of the black community. In fact, Brother Gus, in 2013, we saw more black charter schools shut down in America than any other year since they opened in 1990. Why? Because they say by giving black people charter schools, this helps us. This helps us take back the inner city. By giving them a charter, they shut down a public school. And then what do they come and do to me after they use me to shut down 2 public schools? Guess what happened? 2 years later, Dr. Umar Johnson gets a letter in the mail from the Secretary of Education of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania saying, we regret to inform you that your school has been placed in No Child Left Behind corrective action, which requires you to make annual yearly progress. Your state test scores have shown that more children than not in your school are below basic. And the law requires that you must make AYP, and when you don't make it for 2 consecutive years, we put you in corrective action. And if you don't make it within the next 2 years, we will revoke your charter. So they're planning 5 years down the road, Gus. They've already decided. Give him a charter. If we give Umar a charter, we can shut down Vaux High School. We can shut down Strawberry Mansion High School, which the white people want. And then 5 years later, the school that Umar uses, we're going to shut him down and take that back as well. So a lot of black people with charter schools don't even recognize that them charter schools are being used to gentrify the black community. And let me tell you what white folks are doing. White folks are coming into predominantly black neighborhoods, Gus, and they're opening up charter schools. So we just talked about the black-ran charter school. Now let's talk about the white-ran charter school in the black community. So white folks are saying, look, the state is helping us get rid of these Negroes by giving them charters, shutting down schools, and then taking their charter 5 years from now. But we don't want to wait 5 years before we take back Philadelphia or take back D.C. or take back New York. We got to get busy now. So we know the state is working on our behalf with the black charters. But that's going to be 5 years in the works. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to open up some charter schools for black kids too. And we're going to walk around in the ghetto and give out flyers, letting all the black parents know that there's a new school, a charter school, that we would like for you to support, and we're having an open house next week. The black parents are excited. There's a new charter school that's coming into the hood. They're going to refurbish it, knock it down, build it up. They got golf lessons and horse lessons and study abroad lessons, and they take the kids to France and Spain. Black parents love it. But what they don't know, Brother Gus, is that white open charter school in the black community is a weapon of ethnic cleansing. The reason white people are opening up charter schools in the ghetto is so they can take it back. How does this happen? When a white person opens up a charter school in the ghetto, who do they hire? Black people? No. They hire white people. So they bring all their friends in from other states. They bring their family in from the suburbs. They bring past coworkers in from other townships. And so what they do is the charter school in the black community opened by white people is a magnet for white employment. It is an economic stimulus package for white people. So now, average charter school has about 75 employees. So guess what? By opening a charter school in the ghetto, they were able to hire 75 white people. Now, of course, a couple of those people are going to be black. So let's say they hire 65 whites and 10 blacks, so it doesn't appear that they're racist, okay? So they open up the school. But what black people ain't realizing, Gus, is when those white people move back into the city, where are they going to live? They're going to buy all the houses for sale, and they're going to buy up all the abandoned buildings, and they're going to buy up all the lots in the city, and they're going to build houses on them. They're going to build houses on them so they can live near where they work. But there's a problem. By them white people moving back, that's going to raise the property value of the house. Now, some black people are going to say, well, Dr. Umar, white teachers don't make a lot of money either. So if they're raising the property value, isn't that also pricing them out of the same ghetto that they're trying to take over? No, it's not. Because first of all, most cities, Gus, have real estate rebate laws that give white people who move back into the inner city 10 years tax abatement. If y'all don't believe me, Do your research. When white people come back into the ghetto to steal it from the black people, they don't even have to pay real estate taxes for 10 years. At least 5. In most cities like Philadelphia, 10 years, they ain't got to pay taxes. So they don't have to worry about the property tax going up because they don't have to pay it because their house was built under a law that says we need to revitalize the inner city. But grandma was already living there. So grandma, she doesn't qualify for that law, so she's going to get priced out of her house, and now grandma got to move, and all the poor black families who thought the school was being built for their children have to relocate. And why, Gus? Because the white teachers who are coming back into the ghetto are raising the property taxes, forcing the black people out, which means 10 years from the date the charter schools open, guess what? The charter school will be serving all white children in 10 years. White supremacy, the illusion of inclusion, giving the appearance that we're doing this for you, but we're really doing it for us.
Wow. I'm looking at they have websites that detail the property tax abatement programs that they have across the country. And no surprise, City of Philadelphia is one of the first ones that they have on the list where you can take advantage of these programs. And as you said, get away 10 years even without having to pay any property taxes. And they have great code words. They don't say get rid of Negroes, get rid of black people. It's inner city areas with low property values or other problems. It's very codified language. You would look at a site like this and would never even connect this with racism, white supremacy. Just, I guess, one quick note, because I've heard quite a few folks, even some of our guests, who they would say, well, the public schools are not really that helpful to black people anyway. It's just been horrendous for us the whole time through. So even if these public schools are being closed down as a result of the charter schools, I don't really care about that because they've been terrible for us. And I think black people should get out of there anyway. So I don't really see what the big deal is about public schools shutting down. What would your response to that be?
My response would be I agree with half of that and disagree with the other half. They're correct. The public schools do not work. But neither do the charters. Because charter schools, and you're talking to a former charter school assistant principal, when the charter school does not like your child, they will kick them back, although they do it illegally. Black parents don't know the law. They will send that child back to the public school if they don't like them. So even though you may consider the charter school to be a viable option, if your child presents behavioral or academic problems to that charter school, they won't be there long anyway, because many charter schools, Gus, are in essence practicing like private schools. They are hand-picking the students that they teach. So a charter school in a black ghetto isn't much different than a magnet school in a black ghetto. For example, in Philadelphia, right in the middle of the ghetto is George Washington Carver High School. Now, you would think George Washington Carver, being the great black scientist he was, one of the greatest scientists of all time, you would think that school in the middle of a ghetto serves black children. Nope. George Washington Carver in Philadelphia, in North Philly, right in the ghetto, in the middle of a shoot-'em-up zone, serves all white and Chinese kids. Now, there are some black kids there. Obviously, they have to do that, okay? But the school is a magnet school that serves non-Africans in a low-income, poverty and violence-stricken neighborhood. So they're right. The public school ain't working, but neither is the charter school. But the other thing, too, Gus, is the charter school adds an additional problem. With the public school, you were being miseducated. With the charter school, you're being miseducated, and you're also being displaced geographically. So if you line them next to each other and say which one is doing the worst harm, the miseducation alone or the miseducation with ethnic cleansing, we would have to say that the charter school might be doing a worse job than the public school. Now, let me give a disclaimer. That doesn't mean that I find fault with any black person who opened up a charter school to help black children. I service charter schools, and some of them do an excellent job helping our children. I cannot blame them for not being politically educated enough to understand that they were being used. And in the short term, we have to respect the fact that we do have some charter schools out here opened by black people who are doing the best they can with the little that they have. So I want to be clear that I'm not knocking them, because it's not about an individual charter school here or an individual charter school there. It is about the collective organization of the black community. So that's just like if somebody says, Brother Gus, you need to buy black, and Brother Umar, you need to buy black. Well, if Brother Gus buys black and Dr. Umar buys black, but the other 40 million Africans in America don't buy black, what we're doing is almost going to be of no consequence, because you need to have a critical mass for there to be an effect. You got to have a critical mass. So we're not going to single out and blame individual charter schools for the role that they inadvertently are playing in the ethnic cleansing of the inner city. Not at all, because this is a collective move. And speaking of collective move, Brother Gus, if you were to ask, what should we have done? And what should we be doing? We shouldn't have allowed the schools to get away with miseducating the public schools. And we shouldn't have supported the charter school law, which leads to ethnic cleansing of the inner city. What we should have done was fought for what? Community control of the public school. That way, all the money stays in the public school. You don't have to worry about white folks coming in and gentrifying your school in the name of charter education, and you control the schools. Community control of the public schools was what we should have done, Gus. That's what we should have done. But we made a mistake by going for charter instead of going for community control. In fact, if you study the history of the charter school movement, Brother Gus, the charter school movement was created partly to eliminate the protest for community control. That's one of the reasons they passed the bill. They did not want black people to control the multi-million-dollar budgets of the public schools. So they gave us charters to take us away from public control. That's what we should have done.
What are there? Is there some literature you could point some of us to? I know we have a lot of parents who listen to the program and people who just are concerned and would like to get more information.
One book that comes to mind, and it doesn't deal with charter education directly. The way education works generally, you don't get books on educational developments for about 10 to 20 years after the developments, and a lot of times after the developments have ended. Why? Because people who know that something doesn't work, that doesn't mean that they're not going to try to exploit it for personal financial gain. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. Let's say charter schools were done away with at some point, which they won't be, which I'll talk about in a sec. There would be people who would pimp the charter school system, and then once the charter school bill was revoked, they would come out with a book telling you everything that was wrong with it. But while they can get paid off of it, they're not going to do nothing. Which brings me to the book that I'm thinking about. There's a book called How Teacher Unions Destroy Public Education. How Teacher Unions Destroy Public Education. Guess who it was written by? Attorney Lieberman, who was lead counsel for either the American Federation of Teachers Union or the National Education Association Teachers Union. So the question is, Gus, why would an attorney, lead attorney for the largest union in America, write a book against the union? Because after he pimped it and after he made all his money helping white teachers not be responsible for educating black children, he then wrote a book about it. So you probably won't see good books that are going to critically analyze the charter movement for another 10 or 20 years, because the people who have the inside track to write them books are pimping the charter school movement, and they're not going to shoot themselves in the foot by writing a book exposing their hustle. And charter schools are hustle. Charter schools are called not-for-profit, Gus. Charter schools ain't not-for-profit. When you open up a charter school, you get paid. You have a salary. It is not for-profit. When you open up a charter school, you have the power to hire almost 100 people. Do you know what type of power that is? To be able to give 100 people jobs? Opening a charter school is very prestigious. And also, what a lot of people do who open up charter schools, they give themselves a job that they don't even work. And they can get away with it because on paper, they'll be listed as, the official consultant, or they'll be listed as, some fancy title, but they don't have a job, but they will get a paycheck. So don't let nobody fool you. Charter schools are a for-profit operation, not to mention the grants that they get from local businesses and national businesses, which they can use to increase the salaries that they pay their favorite people who work at these places.
Wow. I'm going to check for that book right now. How Teacher Unions Destroyed Public Education. I'm going to check for it. Once I locate it, I'll link it online. So other folks, if you're interested, you can check it out. If folks have questions for Dr. Umar, definitely feel free to dial in. The number you can ring us, 760-569-7676, and the code is 564-943#. Press *6 if you have a question for Dr. Umar. That number again, 760-569-7676, and the code is 564-943#. Press *6 if you would like to participate. The website again for folks, hopefully, to invest in the Frederick Douglass, Marcus Garvey, RBG, International Leadership Academy, Dr. Umar Johnson School.com. Check it out and support the fundraiser. Before I get to some of the folks who dialed in with questions, you touched on earlier a major aspect, confusion. I think one of the concepts that you use frequently of social engineering in terms of convincing us that racism is no longer a problem that has been vanquished in this area of the world. Certainly there's no need for black people to have in mind that they should be resisting what racist man, racist woman are doing, and that the only people who are struggling for quote-unquote civil rights currently are homosexuals. I would also toss in white women. I think they're doing a really good job of saying that, the white woman is also being mistreated somehow. I think a lot of folks are familiar. The big brouhaha that was created a couple months back, you were coming up to my neck of the woods, up to Portland, to give a talk at a public school. And then they got very upset and said, wait a minute, this Dr. Umar guy, he's a homophobe. There's no way we're going to have him come and talk at our public school. No way. Get on out of here. We can't have that at all. And I think for a lot of people, that example illustrates a fear that I think I have heard from many non-white people, especially black people, in saying, I don't want to do anything or say anything that could ever possibly be construed as me not being in support of gay rights, because I will be castigated and I will never be able to get a job. I'll never be able to get public office if I choose to do that or anything else. They will be ready to tar and feather me forever if I ever even sound like I'm not in support of this. What would your comments be, I guess, to folks who have concerns about addressing this issue?
I would say that as long as people are dependent on the oppressor's economic order for their livelihood, they have to be strategic and careful about what they do. So I could understand that for a brother or a sister. However, I would also say that if we can't speak out against things that are clearly not in the best interest of African people, then it's going to be difficult for us to socialize our children to be courageous in the face of evil as well. See, the children learn from the adults. So if they see that black people are scared to say that homosexuality is an anti-African behavior, then they will also be scared to say it. And you cannot be scared to fight your oppressor. So I do respect and understand why people have to be careful, because they work and they can't afford to lose their jobs because they have families. I'm able to speak freely because I'm self-employed. Okay, so I can understand their position. But that also speaks, Brother Gus, for the need for us to become economically independent. If black people were economically independent, we could say whatever the hell we want, and it would not matter because I don't work for you. I don't get grants from you. I don't have loans from you. You see? But because we're economically dependent on the same person we're fighting, it creates this docility in the face of oppression that forces black people to adopt a humble and meekish and cowardly disposition even when their principles are being challenged. And it goes back to the crisis in civil rights. And that is that the Civil Rights Bill never gave us access to capital so we could build independently from white people. It never did that. It never did that. Nowhere in the Civil Rights Bill, if you study it, do you see equal financial rights. There are no equal financial rights in the Civil Rights Bill. It doesn't say that black people must receive the same qualification or the same consideration for a bank loan, for a small business loan, for a mid-sized loan, for a large loan. It doesn't include any type of provisions for capital for us to build economic infrastructure. And that's our problem, Brother Gus. We don't have any independent infrastructure. For example, our money works more for white supremacy than it works for black people. But let me back up a second, because some listeners might say, Dr. Umar, how is homosexuality bothering the black struggle? Like, if a few people want to be gay, why not just let them be? Like, how is that affecting you helping our children and helping the people? Several ways. If you care about African life, if you consider yourself to be a nationalist, someone who cares about members of the African race, homosexuality threatens the future of that race by eliminating the conception of new live birth. See, homicide is population control. The abortions and abortion pills, that's birth control. But homosexuality, Brother Gus, is conception control. So if you are an exterminator, let's say you are an exterminator of ants. Someone has an ant problem and they call you in to rid their house of termites and ants. Do you want to kill all the adult ants? Is that going to get rid of the termite problem? Nope. Do you want to just find all the pregnant ants in the house and crush all them? Is that going to get rid of the problem? Nope. Wouldn't it be better to find the males and prevent the males from ever cohabitating with the female termites so new babies can't be born? Wouldn't it be better to get to the female termites and prevent them from mating with the male termites so no children get born? So what is the most effective population control strategy? Is it killing the full-grown ants? Is it just killing the mother ants? Or is it preventing the conception? The conception is the most effective. And that's why homosexuality is a threat, because it is a social disease. Homosexuality is a social disease. It spreads. One homosexual can influence another heterosexual to become homosexual. In fact, Brother Gus, one of the things we're finding in the high schools is a lot of children who are not gay, but who suffer from low self-esteem, who suffer from anxiety, who suffer from bullying, who suffer from social isolation. They are being recruited by the homosexual high school gangs into becoming homosexual and lesbian. Now, these are children who are not molested. These are boys who are not psychologically castrated. These are not children who are brainwashed by the homosexual media. These are children who simply wanted to fit in. Now, Brother Gus, you and I both know whether you have a degree in psychology is irrelevant. A child who wants to fit in and not be a loser, if he sees a gang that looks like it gets more respect than he gets, he sees a gang that looks like they are close-knit family that look out for each other, and he's just out there as a loner, whether it's joining a drug gang or a violent gang or a theft gang or a gay gang, they will join it. So that's why I refer to homosexuality as a social disease. We have to control it because it will spread like wildfire, and before you know it, you got more homosexual black people than you have heterosexual black people. And why are they doing it? What is the purpose of this? Because a lot of the people pushing homosexuality are not homosexual. Let me say that again. A lot of the funders behind this movement, population control junkies, are not homosexual. So why are they pushing it? Because it is an African extermination strategy. The goal is to get black people to zero population growth. What is zero population growth, Brother Umar? It's real simple. Anyone who studied population control knows that when there's a group of people that you want to exterminate, like the British did with the Tasmanians, like the Germans did with the Herero people in Southwest Africa, you want to basically create a situation where more people of that particular group die annually than are born annually. If more people die annually than are born annually, you can successfully predict the final extermination date mathematically of a people. That's why you have homosexuality. That's why I'm against it. I don't hate my homosexual brothers and sisters. I don't hate my lesbian brothers and sisters. But I'm against the behavior because I know it leads to genocide. It contributes to zero population growth. Abortion contributes to zero population growth. Homicide contributes to zero population growth. I hate homosexuality just like I hate abortion, just like I hate black-on-black homicide, because they are all strategies of African extermination. That's why I'm against it, brothers and sisters. I don't have a fetish to be talking about men who sleep with men. I don't have a fetish to be talking about women who sleep with women. That's not the bulk of my work. The bulk of my work is saving children. But if I'm going to save children, I have to save African children also from the wicked, demonic population extermination plots that the oppressor has set against them. That's why I'm against the behavior.
There is an article. This is posted at allvoices.com. Veronica S. I don't know. The author is a non-white person or a white person. Can be difficult to say. They don't have an identifying photograph or anything. But I wanted to get your response because some of our listeners saw this piece. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I just want to read a little bit so that you can respond. There is a video, a 2013 video that you have on YouTube where you're discussing this very issue and talking about how many of the misbehaviors that black females and black males engage in as parents, arguing, bickering in front of their children, engaging in molestation or spousal abuse, these sort of things can also lead to what is called homosexual behavior. The video is about an hour where you go into detail about how a lot of this ends up producing what is called homosexual behavior, zero population growth. She writes, black mothers, she's talking about black mothers are blamed for most of what ails their children. I call it the Sigmund Freud effect. And Dr. Umar is using it here to explain why so many black men are going gay these days. Dr. Umar Abdullah Johnson, a certified psychologist, child therapist, and founder of the National Movement to Save Black Boys, feels strongly about empowering the black community, especially young black men. Much is clear after one listens to his many impassioned speeches on the need for fathers and mothers to take an active role in their children's lives, but is his analysis of why some are gay dangerously flawed. Listen at the 119 mark in the attached video as the doctor speaks about specializing in homosexual therapy for our teenage people after suggesting that bickering between parents at home may drive daughters into the arms of another woman instead of a man. He said most lesbians were either abused, raped, told that men were no good, bullied, or called ugly by boys when they were girls or didn't have any fathers at home. Which brings up a much debated question. Are homosexuals and lesbians born that way, or do they turn homosexual due to extenuating circumstances like poor parenting, including a lack of fathers. At the 152 mark, the good doctor added that mothers psychologically castrate their sons, then act shocked when they turn out gay. This statement suggests that being gay is a defect and that mothers are responsible for this shortcoming. I admire the doctor's spot-on critique of absentee fathers and barely their mothers in the black community. I agree that we can do better and need to do better. I applaud him having the guts to not only speak truth to your own, but offer solutions as well. But ostracizing or branding a section of the black population as defects or equating being gay to being emasculated or raped is counterproductive, for he is dismissing large segments of the black community that can and does contribute positively. I will stop there. I wanted to get your response to this critique.
Yes. Couple things. Number one, when people like to cut up my video, if you notice, they love to tell people to listen at the 115 mark or listen at the 20-minute mark. Anyone who's watched a full Dr. Umar Johnson video knows that you have to watch the full video. It's one of the reasons why my lectures are so long. You can't take my statements out of context, because everything I say is put within a historical and psychological context that cannot be separated from any comment. So, for example, she pieced out me saying that if a parent, that mothers can psychologically castrate their sons, which turns them gay. That sounds oversimplistic, because she's now putting it within the context that emotional trauma creates psychological dysfunction. Every psychologist knows this. Emotional trauma creates psychological dysfunction. And the main manifestation of psychological dysfunction is behavioral dysfunction. When a boy is made to feel that he cannot function as a man, he may continue to crave that masculine validating force, which can then be manipulated by a potential pedophile into a homosexual relationship. Now, when someone hears what I just said to you, Brother Gus, they would probably say, oh, now I see what he's saying, because it's being put within the relevant context. But what these pro-homosexual forces love to do is find something that I stated that appears to be quite absurd and sensational and direct everybody to that as opposed to the entire video. And even when they post the entire video but tell people to go to the 14-minute mark, they're being irresponsible. Because what they should say is, although the comment of interest to us is at the 14-minute mark, in fairness to Dr. Johnson, you need to listen to the entire lecture to make sure you understand the appropriate context in which his comments are being made. Just like when I say homosexuality is a mental illness. Oh, my God. They're defective. But are you aware that the American Psychiatric Association considered it a mental illness? Why didn't anybody go up against them? Why wasn't the American Psychiatric Association attacked when they called homosexuality a disease? Why were they never boycotted when they called lesbianism a disease? So when Umar Johnson says it, everybody's up in arms. But the American Psychiatric Association said it for over 100 years, and nobody said a word. When I say that molestation turns children to homosexuality, which is a fact of my therapeutic experience, it is a fact of my therapeutic experience that molestation in early childhood triggers sexual behavior that is similar to that in which the child engaged when they were molested. It is a fact, I will defend it with my life, that when girls are sexually molested by men, they develop a hatred towards men, which can trigger, not automatically, because 1 out of every 4 black women has been abused. I'm sure 1 out of every 4 black women is not a lesbian. We all respond to trauma differently. But one of the outcomes of sexual trauma against a girl by a man is lesbianism. It is a fact. One of the outcomes of homosexual pedophilia for boys is homosexuality. This is a therapeutic fact. And the reason I say therapeutic fact, Brother Gus, is because a lot of black people place a lot of trust in white research. If you notice, you always hear people say, where's the research? Are you kidding me? This is America. There is no science in this country. This country is about power, racism, and wealth. And when you have a country that is based on power, racism, and wealth, the science is paid for to reflect the agenda of the ruling elite. The so-called research you see that claims that people are born gay is paid for by people who have an interest in the homosexual agenda. The research that the government did in the 1980s that said black boys had a gene that predisposed them to violence was paid for by those who had a mass incarceration agenda. So I want to say here and now, as a scientist, the last thing you need to be asking Dr. Umar for is so-called Eurocentric research that proves my points. The blessing for me is the fact I've been a school psychologist for almost a generation. I've evaluated a generation of children. I've given a generation of gifted assessments, a generation of therapy. And because of that, my research, my first-hand experience and interaction with African children is what I base my conclusions and positions on. I put no faith in so-called white research because it is not research. What you read in these scientific journals is white supremacist propaganda being passed off as objective fact. One of white supremacy's greatest victories, Brother Gus, is convincing African people that science is in fact science when it is nothing but conjecture. Yes, molestation turns out children sexually confused. Yes, rape turns out children sexually confused. Yes, a mother who psychologically castrates her son can trigger sexual confusion in him. I never said every gay boy was the result of psychiatric or psychological castration by his mother. I didn't say that. And I said in some cases, and anyone who has heard me speak on homosexuality, and I got more videos than any other scholar on YouTube, if you watch my videos on homosexuality, I am very clear in saying what? Time and time again, most cases of homosexuality and lesbianism are triggered by sexual abuse. Most cases. I never once ever said that most cases were triggered by by psychological castration by the mother, which is just another word for verbal abuse. When a boy is verbally abused by the female parent, that can engender very deep feelings of masculine inadequacy, which can lead to him feeling that he needs a man because he is not one. In fact, Brother Gus, one of the books I'm going to do, and admittedly, I'm not doing it at this time, admittedly, because if I do it now, it would trigger such a reaction from blacks. I don't give a damn about white people because I'm not interested in their money or their support. But it would trigger such a response from blacks that it could negatively affect what I'm trying to do to build this school district for our children. And that is my second book was supposed to have been not for sisters only, relationships and dating, not for brothers only, not the Prince of Pan-Africanism comic book, not Introduction to White Supremacy, but my second book following Psycho-Academic Holocaust was supposed to be Psycho-Sexual Holocaust. I was going to show, using documentation from European sources, that nobody is born gay and that the normalization of homosexuality was a population control strategy with European sources. There's been more than enough books written by white psychiatrists talking how the APA was basically taken over by a coup d'etat, by the homosexual movement, and that's why they took it. That's why they reclassified it from mental illness to regular behavior through documented evidence. I'm going to do that book, Brother Gus, but it can't be my next one because black people are hung up on this gay thing, and they've been confused by the bourgeoisie into thinking they got to support it. So that can't be my second book because I think it would significantly undermine what I'm trying to do for our children. So I'm going to save that for a later date. But I will, at some point, be doing that book.
I think you have a graphic image that you can include when you get to that critically important second book. Have you seen the latest issue of Time magazine with Laverne?
Yes.
Okay.
The tipping point, the
yes.
transgender tipping point.
Yes, and your concept you always bring up, social engineering. The subtitle for the transgender tipping point with Laverne Cox, for folks who watch Orange is the New Black. That's another aspect of social engineering right there with that television program. But the subtitle to this front page article is America's Next Civil Rights Frontier. That's the subtitle to the report. And I've even seen there was an article in the Chicago Sun-Times, an op-ed, mind you. So this is where you're just supposed to be able to give your opinion. Kevin D. Williams, he wrote an op-ed piece, and it was titled, Laverne Cox is Not a Woman. And he gives his view on this. He was castigated. They made him remove the article from the website for the Chicago Sun-Times and signed a petition demanding an apology. I'm surprised they haven't asked for him to be fired from the Chicago Sun-Times, but they're vicious outrage over this report. Just any thoughts, and particularly the wording that this is America's next frontier of civil rights?
Yes. In fact, Brother Gus, the position paper that the American Psychiatric Association released in 1973 on the removal of homosexuality from the DSM-4 clearly states, and you can get it online. This is not a secret document. You can Google it and find it, APA position paper on homosexuality, 1973. On the removal of homosexuality from the DSM, 1973. You can get it online. It clearly tells you that the removal of homosexuality had nothing to do with scientific evidence that people were born. They say this. This is stated in the paper. But my thoughts on that transgender person, that sick Negro. Now check this out. Look at the symbolism now. The symbolism is that transgender person is on a show, star of a show. Orange is the new black. Now we know orange represents the color of the inmate jumpsuit in prison. And the star of the show is a transgendered black male. So what they're telling you is that the new black is either an inmate or a homosexual. Look at the symbolism. The symbolism is saying if you are a black man, you are either in jail or you are gay, period. Look at the symbolism. Orange is the new black. So they're taking care of two birds with one stone because the person is transgender. So they are clearly stating that the new black man of America is either sexually confused or physically incarcerated. And the front of the Time magazine, Gus, is basically continuing the agenda to replace sex with race as the predominant civil rights issue in America. Replace sex with race. And the problem with this, Gus, I want the listeners to be clear. My issue, I don't support homosexuality. But my bigger issue is that gay black people are letting white supremacy use them to take attention away from the masses of black people and put it on their sexual behavior. That's what makes me so mad. It ain't that he put on a damn dress, because I don't have to see him. Now, if I had to live with him, that would be an issue. That wouldn't exist. I couldn't tolerate that. But I don't have to see him. So that's not my immediate disgust. My immediate disgust is that he's allowing himself to be used to take attention away from black people and put it on sexual behavior. And that's the problem. When they say gay is the new black, orange is the new black, they are telling you right then and there, we are not worrying about black rights. We are only worrying about gay rights, and we're going to use gay black people to help us ignore your children, ignore your women, ignore your unemployment rate, ignore your poverty issues, ignore your miseducation, your homicide, your drug addiction, ignore the racism that you suffer from, and only worry about giving gay black people a right to sleep with people of the same gender. This is an atrocity. It is a Holocaust. And the gay movement, Brother Gus, is the strongest weapon white supremacy has against black people. Let me tell you why. Once you get branded as a homophobe, black people are scared to be around you. If black people are scared to be around you, you can't get organized. So because they got black people so scared of being considered a homophobic, black people are now not organizing with other black people based on their position on the gay question, which means the cracker has won. Because instead of the black agenda being our priority, instead of the black agenda being our priority, not being caught saying anything about gay people is our priority. Which is why, Brother Gus, other than shows I do with you and a select few other people, I don't even like to touch the issue. And I tell you why. Because they are being very clever about putting this gay thing in front of the war on black children. For example, that article that you read, I'm willing to bet nowhere in that article did they talk about Dr. Umar's work to build a school. Nowhere in that article did it talk about Dr. Umar's work to expose the special ed machine. I'm willing to bet nowhere in that article did they talk about my work to expose expulsion, suspension, ADHD, psychiatric med, juvenile incarceration, premature extermination. I'm willing to bet they did not touch the central focus of my work. They put the whole article on the homosexual piece. That's what you call a Machiavellian strategy. A Machiavellian strategy to try to put Dr. Umar's work fighting homosexuality above my work to save black boys as my predominant focus. And I want your listening audience to understand that that is not my predominant focus. And I want your listening audience to be very careful not to let anybody aid and abet them into any conversation about Dr. Umar's position on homosexuality. When asked, they should simply say, the brother got a right to his opinion. He does not support it. He does not agree with it. He can even prove that it's nothing but African extermination, zero population growth policy. But that is not the focus of that brother's work. He's trying to raise $5 million to buy a school to educate black boys. So if you want to talk to me about Dr. Umar, talk about his progressive work, not the reactive work. We got to be careful not to let black agents of the homosexual agenda reprioritize our agenda.
Great point. Great point. Confusion. I think that was mentioned before. Getting to the callers, I got to make sure because we try to have a good memory here at the Cows. You were with us last August 2013. Co-host Justice was here. She asked, how would you explain what a white person is to a 9-year-old? And you said, I'd like a little time. Let me get my response together. I wanted to see if you had a follow-up to that question. How would you explain what a white person is to a 9-year-old?
I'm going to get you, Gus. You should have emailed and texted me that, so I would have been ready. I'll be ready for the next show.
Okay.
Give me a heads up. I forgot that the princess asked me that question, but I'll be ready for the next show. Just give me a heads up.
Will do.
One other thing, Gus, I forgot to mention, if I could, real quick. Forgive me for interrupting you. I wanted to give out the email address for brothers and sisters listening who would like to be considered for employment at the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey RBG International Leadership Academy. If you're interested in employment, please send your resume to FDMG. That's the acronym for Fred Douglass Marcus Garvey. FDMG resumes. RESUMES. FDMG resumes at gmail.com. That comes straight to me. Make sure you have a full resume. Don't leave out anything. Because if you leave out some things, if you don't necessarily get selected for the job you want, there might be another position that I need you to function in. But because you only listed employment that was related to the job you want and not employment listed listing employment related to all jobs you had, you could be considered for another position if you don't get the one you want. So don't shortchange yourself. You might want to be the math teacher, but you might have enough training to be the history teacher. You see, you might want to be security, but you might have enough training where you might could be a house mother or a house father. So please don't sell yourself short by not listing all your experiences and all your interests. Send your resume. Make sure you have a cover letter telling me a little bit about yourself and how you feel you could be a benefit to our children going forward. I respectfully ask that two types of people do not apply. Those who are sexually confused and those who are married to non-Africans. The employees at our college are going to be role models for traditional African families. If you want to do what you want to do, you do it somewhere else. But I do not want you working at my school if you are sexually confused, because that is not the energy that our children need. And I don't want you at my school if you married to a non-African. I don't care how long ago you married her. It doesn't matter, or him. You cannot stand before our children having committed those acts of treason. Not only are we going to need math teachers, science teachers, language teachers, and history teachers, we're going to need people who know how to teach natural raw food preparation, natural hair care preparation. We're going to have a state-of-the-art music and video production studio where we teach our children how to make movies, documentaries, how to make professional music. We're going to have African drumming, African martial arts. We're going to have a clothing design program where our children get taught how to make clothing. If we got people out there who know how to make clothing, most of these jobs don't require a teacher certification. And that's the beauty of an independent school, Brother Gus. A lot of what you do is not regulated by the state. So the person who teaches raw food, the person who teaches our children how to make clothes, the person who does the African martial arts, they don't have to have a teaching cert. That's the beauty of being independent. So brothers and sisters, please don't hold back your resume because you don't have an education degree. You don't need no education degree in most areas. And even for those who will need a certification, they will need a private school certification, which is a whole lot easier than a public school certification. We also going to need security. We're going to need secretaries. We're going to need building engineers, bus drivers, classroom assistants. So there's a whole nother section of employment outside the classroom because this is going to be a residential school where the children live. They're going to live on campus. If y'all seen the video, and if you haven't seen the video, please go to drumarjohnsonschool.com and watch the video so you can see the campus. Okay, I had the pleasure of going through the whole campus, building by building. It's the perfect place, Brother Gus. And I'm saying this because I don't want people thinking, well, he just found any old black college. No. This college was handpicked. Why? The price. Where else are you going to get a full college campus, 137 acres, for a couple $1 million? Morris Brown was $14 million. We're only dealing with a couple $1 million. The college is in the middle of nowhere, Gus, which gives us the secluded area we need to properly educate and detoxify psychologically our children. So the college is small enough to manage, but large enough to do what we need to do in a rural area, not too far from the East Coast, Virginia, not too far from the North Carolina border. And we're also going to have a commute program for children who do live in the area, because Lawrenceville, Virginia is predominantly black. That's right, brothers and sisters. The school is surrounded by a black community, not a white one. Now, of course, Virginia is mostly white, but the immediate community there is black, and many of them are going to want their children to come to the school. So we will have a day school for children who walk to school, and then we will have a residential school for children who come from out of state, and then we're going to have a virtual school for children who were not able to be in the school because of they didn't get selected, because, we're only going to be able to hold about a couple hundred students on campus, maybe 1,000 or 2 once we build the extra dorm. But they will be able to tap in through virtual school at home. They get on the computer and they tap right into the classroom. It's called virtual school, and they'll be in the class. Their classmates can see them. Teacher can see them. They can see the teacher and see the classmates, so they won't feel left out. But if your child is going to be in the virtual school, we're also going to require that they come to the campus at least 4 times a year for a weekend so they can be socialized with their children, because we're raising these children as family. So that whole class will be a family. And your child being in virtual school from Portland still is losing the socialization aspect of education. So they're going to have to come and participate in the socialization on campus 4 times a year to make sure they're thoroughly bonded to their fellow brothers and sisters at FDMG. So, brothers and sisters, we're going to have a farm. We're going to have hydroponics. We're going to have a solar energy program. We're going to have cosmetology, natural hair care, barbering program. And the school, Gus, still has their cosmetology department. So, guess what? We already got the beauty stations and the barber stations. A lot of the stuff is already there. The good thing is that we don't have to do a lot of maintenance to the school. We do got to do some, but not a whole bunch. So that's the good thing. Once we buy the school, we will just about be ready to open it right after we get it, as long as we have the operating expenses. So, brothers and sisters, please donate. drumarjohnsonschool.com. August the 21st is the deadline. What better gift to the Honorable Marcus Garvey in 100 years than to get that school? What better gift to our ancestors who fought, struggled, bled, died, and sacrificed under American slavery? Here we are going on 150 years. What better gift than to give our ancestors, our Agoon, that school? What better gift to the brothers and sisters who died in the civil rights struggle and struggled than to get that school? What better gift than to give all them brothers and sisters who fought to desegregate public school, the Little Rock Nine, and all of them brothers and sisters? What better gift than to get this school? And August the 21st is the deadline. That's the anniversary of Nat Turner. That's the anniversary of the Haitian Revolution. That's the anniversary of the 4th Pan-African Congress. That's the anniversary of the Fred Douglass Fugitive Slave Convention. What better way to celebrate our ancestors than to help Dr. Umar raise this $5 million? I'm really hoping, Brother Gus, that we get a couple black folks, not famous rich black people, but everyday rich black people who come to me and say, look, brother, I'm not rich enough to give you $500,000 and not get it paid back. You got to pay me back. But I'm not going to charge you interest, and I'm going to give you a couple years to pay me back. I'm hoping a couple of them come forward, Brother Gus, because if we can get, because we got a couple black millionaires in this country, and I ain't talking about the celebrities either. If we can get a couple of them no-name millionaires to come forward, and when I say no-name, I don't mean that in any disrespectful vein, but, folks who are in the cut, they're very private. If I could get a couple of them to come forward with a couple donations of $500,000, $200,000, $100,000, we'll be able to meet that deadline. So I've been praying on this. I've been meditating on this, positive thinking on this. I've been doing everything I can, and I'm just hoping that we get it, because this is what our people need. We need a symbol, Gus, because black people, they're starting to feel hopeless. When I go to the lectures, they're still interested in revolution, but they're starting to feel that hopelessness sink in. And if we can get this school, I think it would really put that self-esteem back in black people. Say, okay, I know a lot is going wrong, but we got a residential school for our children that we paid for out of our own pocket with no handouts from the white folks. We need this to really give black people a psychological and a spiritual boost so we can, get back to what we need to do. So I'm hoping that go to drumarjohnsonschool.com and hit the PayPal button and donate as much as you can and join the $1 a day program. Give me $1 a day from now to August the 21st.
Context of White Supremacy. Invest in Dr. Umar's project. We'll go ahead and hit the phone line, see if we can nab up folks who dialed in. Be helpful. That way we can try to get everybody who dialed in. If you can just get your question in, if you have statements or speeches you would like to give, we could reserve that for maybe the Saturday program or another time. That way we can hopefully get everybody who dialed in. If you can just get right to your question, be efficient. Thank you kindly. Person who dialed in, last four digits, 0059. 0059. Did you have a question for Dr. Umar?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Gus. Dr. Umar, glad to have you. I would like to ask Dr. Umar. My question is, Dr. Umar, with educating the kids, we also have to educate the adults. And did you possibly think about creating a pamphlet where that you might present once a month with going over the material that you put out in your videos? For example, real fast, Gus, when you talk about Ritalin, I was watching your COINTEL your COINTEL lecture, and you were talking about how dangerous Ritalin is, how it's labeled number 4 as being one of the deadliest drugs, and I did the research on that. But it would be helpful moving forward if I somehow had a pamphlet that I could possibly pass to other people and, possibly be willing to maybe pay $5 for information that you could probably put together maybe once a month. So as you're building and you're teaching kids, you're also teaching us, and you're putting out material where that we donate with you with that material. Because as a conscious brother, you constantly have to read so much information, and it would kind of be easier if somebody could compile the information and put it in a way that everybody could understand, and I could pass it out to people and keep other people as informed as I am.
Okay. Well said. A couple thoughts on that. Number one, I totally agree. Number two, we will have an adult education program that will be put into motion only after we have fully implemented and perfected the pre-K to 12th grade program. Now, in terms of a summary document, and I agree with you, we need that. But I think that one of the things we're going to have to do at the Academy is start a newspaper, an official Pan-African newspaper that condenses everything that happens in the African world down to a newspaper. So you're correct. You don't have to read everything. So much information is coming at us. We don't know what to read, what not to read, what's relevant, what's not relevant. So yes, we're going to have the education program for children, for parents, but then we're also going to have a newspaper. So we're going to do both things of what you're saying. And yes, I've already thought about that, and I agree with you. We do need that information. As far as parents being educated with the same information that we're giving their children, that's what the continuing education program is going to be. Because I've already got a lot of interested parents who said, look, that stuff you teaching my child, I want to learn it. I got to work during the day, and I know you don't want adults in the class with children. So what we're going to do is we're probably going to start off with a weekend academy for the parents that will grow into a night school for the parents so they can learn how to make clothes, so they can learn how to be farmers. You see, so at the end of the day, we're going to end up educating the whole community. I'm looking at my campus as being the black Mecca in America, literally. I'm looking at that camp. This is why y'all got to help me get this campus, y'all, because it ain't just about school. Now we got a college that is totally dedicated to the resurrection of African people. You know what that means? That means we got events going on all day, all night, all weekend for black people. Retreats, cookouts, symposiums, yoga class. I mean, it will be a Mecca. I want this college to be so jumping, you know what I mean, that it is the Mecca. It is the one-stop shop for everything we need. And then we're going to start a credit union right there on campus. Now everybody coming there for the credit union to deposit their check. We're going to build a Black Wall Street. That college is going to be a Black Wall Street. So when you go to drumarjohnsonschool.com, please don't think you just donating to the education of our children. Now, that should be reason enough. That is the most important reason. That is the primary objective. But I want you to know that Dr. Umar is thinking beyond education. I'm thinking nation building. We will have our own farmers market. Every weekend you can come and buy all the fruits and vegetables you want and learn how to cook them if you don't know how to cook them. Come on, brothers and sisters. We talking about a black Mecca in Lawrenceville, Virginia, only 90 miles, if that much, Brother Gus. I don't know if you know, but St. Paul's College is within striking distance from the Nat Turner estate. So we talking about the backyard of the Nat Turner Revolution is where we going to be. It's about an hour away. Come on, brothers and sisters. Go to the website. Call your mother, your brother. Say, look, everybody in the family, let's give Dr. Umar $100. Everybody in the family, let's give Dr. Umar $250. I need you to get more people involved than just yourself. Husband, make your wife donate. Wife, make your husband donate. Cousin, make your cousin donate. Brother, make your sister donate. This is something that we should all be able to rally around because we all know how much our children need it. And the beautiful thing, Gus, the president of the university wants me to get this money. He wants me to buy the school. But if I don't get the money, we won't get the school. But he's rooting for me. But I need the people to dig in their pockets. And if you're not comfortable donating on PayPal, send me a check. The information is on the website. Send me a check or a money order payable to FDMG Academy. Send me the check or money order. Now, some people ask me to do Kickstarter, Indigo, I'm not going to do that. Why? Because they charge too much money. We trying to raise $5 million. I can't afford to give Kickstarter $500,000 or Indigo $500,000 or GoFunded $500,000 because most of them charge about 10%, which is both their fee as well as the PayPal or the other financial transfer service fee. So you're looking at about 10%. 10% of $5 million is $500,000. Y'all want me to give white folks $500,000 because your ass too lazy to go to the website and click PayPal? Because you too lazy to go to the post office and get a money order or write a check? Come on, y'all. We are in a state of crisis. We ain't got time for luxury. Get off your ass and give me some money so we can properly educate our children and raise some African men so your daughters can have husbands when they're old enough to start a family. This is about our survival. Come on. I shouldn't even have to sell this. You should feel it in your bones. We got 90 days. Put up or shut up.
Okay.
Gus, I have one more question, or am I done? You need to get the other caller.
If you can hang on, because we have other callers. If
Okay.
we can get through folks efficiently, I'll double back and see if we can get your other question. Let's see. S. Did you have a question for Dr. Umar? Your line should be open.
Good evening, can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Umar, I got your book, Psycho-Academic Holocaust. I actually purchased it for two of my sisters, and it's been beneficial to them in helping with my nephews. I was thinking particularly about the chapter, taking charge, modifying disruptive behavior without medication. And you talked about the 11 laws of successful child discipline. For those who may not be familiar with the book, could you briefly summarize a few of the laws and so that they might become familiar with it?
Okay. A quick synopsis of it, because what they really need to do is get the book and read it. And for those of y'all who don't have the book, you can either come to one of my upcoming lectures or you can order it on my website, my personal website, drumarjohnson.com. What that chapter basically is dealing with is that we can change behavior without medicine. We've always done it. Before Ritalin came about in 1980, we dealt with behavior on our own. The biggest challenge for changing behavior in children is the fact that a lot of parents are not consistent with their behavior program. You have to be consistent. Most black children are raised by single mothers. Most mothers, black or white, are really not good when it comes to discipline because it doesn't come natural to the maternal energy. Okay, mothers are nurturers. They provide the love and the nurture. They're not really good with the discipline. That's not their natural responsibility. But they have to assume the responsibility because we're living in an unnatural state of affairs amongst this beast. And so what mothers have to do is increase their consistency with the behavior. If your child does something that they shouldn't have done, they need to be punished. If the child had a successful week, there should be a small reward. Not a big reward, not money, not expensive video games, but a small reward at the end of the week for compliant behavior. Also, the functions of behavior. You got to know why your child is doing what they're doing in order to change it. Is your child misbehaving because they need your attention and you ain't giving them enough attention? A lot of kids with behavior problems are simply acting out because their parents are neglecting them emotionally. Okay? Is your child doing what they're doing because they have an unaddressed psychological problem? So that is a chapter, probably one of the most, all the chapters in the book are important, but I consider that to be one of the most important chapters because it directly speaks to what you can do instead of drugging your children. But of course, in the book, I also list the drugs that they give our kids and the side effects of the drugs that they give our children for all these different problems. And I'm not sure if you heard about it, Brother Gus, but there's a big campaign now. It's all over the television. I've been seeing a commercial almost every day about the drug Risperdal that they give the boys to deal with anger, even though it's an antipsychotic, which causes a raise in the prolactin hormone in the bloodstream, which leads to them growing breasts. So Risperdal is causing boys to grow breasts. So this whole psychiatric drug thing is out of hand. But I'm going to tell y'all something. I'm still shocked. Why am I still shocked? Because with the most important book in the black community, being the most requested lecturer in the black community, having more YouTube videos than any other scholar in the black community, there's still black parents who are consenting to getting their kids put on medicine. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's 40 million black people in America. I'm sure most of them never heard of me. I'm sure, because I've never been on the major TV shows. Okay, so I've never done Oprah. I've never done Tavis. They don't know who I am. But I would think just by word of mouth from all the people who do know who I am, that at least we should be seeing a significant drop in the amount of black parents putting their kids on drugs, and I think we have. But I'm still coming across parents who are telling me my son is on Ritalin, my son is on Adderall, my son is on Prozac, my son is on Risperdal. Black parents, are you crazy? Why are you putting your children on drugs so they can get miseducated? That don't even make any sense to me. You know the school ain't teaching your child shit, but yet you want to put them on drugs so they can miseducate them a little bit better. I'm telling you, this whole system is crazy. And that's why we need my school, and that's why y'all need to post your donation tonight.
Thank you.
Right on. Caller at 1272. Did you have a question for Dr. Umar?
Good evening, Gus. How you doing? And good evening, Dr. Umar. Definitely thank you for taking my call, and thank you I commend you for the work that you're doing. And I haven't donated yet, but I know friends that have donated. But I did have a question. You covered so much, and I appreciate everything that you do cover every time you do speak. And my question, I guess, was what are your thoughts on educators opening up their school or tutoring school, either in their homes, at a storefront, at the church? I mean, not specifically at the church, because most time churches, they want to do their own thing, but in their homes or in a storefront if they grow out of their home. And the second part of that question would be not a 501c3, but just on a donation basis. You've got qualifications, and you just have that desire to help your neighborhood kids develop in math, science.
We're in a state of crisis, and because of that, I think we should do whatever we can where we are. So I totally support that as an emergency strategy. And we got a lot of brothers and sisters out there who are running homeschools and academic tutoring programs. I think the black church needs to do more because they're not doing enough, and they collect too much money from us for not to be doing anything. I have yet to get a donation from a church, and that bothers me because churches collect $3 million every Sunday, every week in the black community, and it doesn't make any sense why I don't have a check from these churches. But I'm also upset that members of the congregation, those of you in the listening audience who go to church, I'm also disappointed in you all for not going to your pastor or your imam or your priest and demanding that they give Dr. Umar Johnson a check to help him acquire this black college for the use of a residential academy for our children, because you're not doing it. See, if the church was doing it, that's one thing, but they're not doing it. And I think all of y'all who go to church, y'all need to make them write a check. Or what you should do, this is what you should do. The money that you was going to give on Sunday, your tithes, give your tithes to Dr. Umar. Give your tithes to the babies. Okay, the Bible doesn't say that your tithes has to go to the church. Your tithes are supposed to go to righteous works and righteous deeds and righteous projects. And there's nothing going on in that church that's more righteous than me trying to get this school for our children. If you can tell me something that the pastor is working on that is more important than buying a black college to be used as a residential school for black boys, I want to know what it is. I want to know what it is. And most of us don't have that. So brothers and sisters, please stop putting your money in the church until we have this $5 million and donate it to the FPMG Academy. Very important that we do that. But we need institutions. That's why I'm not interested in building a homeschool. I'm not interested in it. First of all, you got enough people doing it, and number two, that's not a solution. It's a Band-Aid. Solution is in the institution. I'm about building a school, and I've said this to people, and I don't want to sound arrogant, but for who I am and what I represent and what my qualifications are, I need a real school. Most of these guys with homeschools, they're not certified principals. They've never been building administrators. They're not school psychologists, and that doesn't take anything away from them, but they don't have my expertise. Someone with my expertise should be trying to do something more than a homeschool. God has blessed me with too many credentials for me to settle for a school in my house. That's just not going to cut it for Umar Johnson. I want a damn institution. Ashe, ashe, ashe.
Let's see. The person that dialed in, 8046, caller at 8046. Do you have a question for Dr. Umar? Oh, wait a minute. Didn't click. Sorry about that. 8046. Yeah. Okay.
Greetings. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks, Gus. Dr. Umar, I guess my question was, I know you were indicating a time frame for which you were trying to collect donations. Is that being driven by some sort of race condition that requires you to purchase the building by a certain period of time? You may have covered this earlier, but I kind of came into the conversation midway.
Yes, the school is buying me some time before they put it back on the market. They have other people who are interested in purchasing it. But as I was saying earlier, and as I talk about it in the other videos on my website, drumarjohnsonschool.com, there's other interested parties. And the reason why they're buying me some time is because they want to give the school to someone who's going to continue in the legacy of the founder. And so they want to give it to someone who's going to continue to use it as a school for black children. And so that's why we need to raise this money by August the 21st. Otherwise, it's going to go back on the market, and it's going to be sold to someone who's going to turn it into something else.
Thanks.
Appreciate it, caller. Hope people do not wait till the last minute. If you have a question, the number last time, 760-569-7676. And the code is 564943 pound. Press *6 if you have a question for Dr. Umar. The caller at 2547. Did you have a question?
Yes, greetings. Hi, this is Frank from BlackHollywood.me. Dr. Umar, greetings to you. Greetings, Gus. Callers. I actually, as soon as I heard it, I sent it to my 1,600 Twitter followers because that video, you did an excellent job. It gave me chills. It did. It's actually exactly what we need in this moment right now. But my question is, do you have any pushback from any black feminists or, women who might feel it is excluding the woman's right, even though it is obvious that the males are the most in need in this moment?
There's been women who have expressed concern that I'm neglecting girls, but I respond to that by saying, by saving black boys, I am saving black women. What's the major issue that black women claim to have today? Finding a good man, finding a good provider, finding a man who can nurture them and not physically abuse them. So if this is the number one concern of black women, being able to have a strong husband who can commit to them by raising the boys appropriately, are we not also looking out for the women? That's the argument that I've been making to sisters, and many of them, after understanding my rationale, many of them become supportive. Not that they weren't in the first place, they just were a little concerned that I was overlooking the women, but my point to them is that is exactly why we're building the school for boys, is to make sure the women have what they need when the time comes. But I will also say this, the Anna Douglas and the Amy Garvey Academy may actually start the same time as the Fred Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. And in other words, there is a small chance that I may open the school as co-ed. I'm still thinking about it, and at this point, I'm still largely leaning towards exclusively male at first, but there is a chance it may go co-ed from the beginning. But I don't think that's going to affect us in terms of support, because most of the boys who are catching hell are living with their moms. So
Absolutely.
Believe it or not, even though I get a couple of women who might say, what about the girls? I'm not getting that from most women. Most women are saying, my boy needs your school. Hurry up and get it open. Now, in terms of pushback, most of the pushback I'm getting is from jealous-ass conscious community people. That's what not parents, but niggas on Facebook, excuse my phrase because I don't like to use the N-word, but I've been seeing a very small, and it seems not to be growing, jealous camp within the social a networking community, conscious folk, allegedly, who are saying negative things. How do we know he's not stealing the money? Well, that's real simple. You write the check to the school and it goes into the school's bank account. If I'm stealing the money, obviously I won't be able to buy the school. Second off, I'm probably considered the number one threat in America to white supremacy. I don't know of another person who would be more of a threat to white people than me in terms of the message I bring. So I'm sure the FBI and the CIA are watching Dr. Umar a whole lot closer than any jealous-ass conscious community Negro. So these are some of the things I'm seeing. We need to investigate the brother. What else am I hearing about? There's been people who have tried to come from under me and sabotage the fundraiser by trying to get other people to purchase the property, other people claiming that they're raising money for the property. All of this is false because I'm in direct communication with the president of the university. So I know what's happening. I know what's going on. So when I get on Facebook and see people talking about, well, it's been sold, how he's going to buy? Really? So they just let me on the campus and did a video with the president's approval and presence after they sold it? You just got a bunch of dumbass people who don't know what they talking about. There was another fool on Facebook talking about the school is going up for auction next week. How he got a fundraiser when the school going up? You dumb ass. The school ain't going up for auction next week, okay? The school ain't going up for auction till August after they give Dr. Umar Johnson an opportunity to raise money to buy. So I'm saying all that to say, brothers and sisters, in the listening audience, don't listen to any negative information. Bring it to me. If you hear something that you feel might be true, ask me. I'm not going to get upset. I'm going to get upset if you make an assumption. You can text Umar. You can email me. You can tweet me. You can Facebook me. You can Instagram me. You can WhatsApp me. You can mail me. You got 1,000,001 ways to get in contact with me. So if you hear any foolish garbage and you want to just, Dr. Umar, I heard that the school ain't for sale and that you hustling people. Just ask me, and I'll give you an answer. And you can email me so that way you'll have my answer in written print. So that you got evidence of what I said. I don't like to sit here and say that I'm an honest person because people always say that they honest. So to me, that don't mean nothing. When somebody says I'm an honest person and I wouldn't steal your money and I'm not doing this for personal reasons, everybody says that. So for me to sit here and say it, it doesn't mean anything. My thing is, look at what I do for the people. I've done more free stuff for black people than any other scholar in this country. Elder and youth. Okay? I'm the most reasonably priced scholar in the country. Elder and youth. I'm the most relevant one in the country. Elder and youth. So having been out here struggling as long as I have, fighting and saving black children as much as I have, I would expect a little bit more confidence from black people. But I do want to say, 99% of our people are behind me on this. I'm still looking for their money, though. But verbally, it's been nothing but love, and I want to be clear. So I don't want to give too much energy to that small 1% of conscious detractors. I don't want to give them too much energy because when you got 99% of your people behind you and you got 1% haterade, them haters shouldn't even garner a response from me. So I don't even want to talk too much more about them. Now, one of the shocking things, if you were to say what's one of the shocking things, one of the shocking things about the fundraiser is most of the people who have donated so far have not been the people who I thought who would. In other words, when I travel the country and go to different cities, there's people who come to my lectures all the time who claim to support me. I haven't seen donations from a lot of them. I haven't gotten a single donation from another conscious scholar. Not one of them has donated to the school. I'm not concerned about that, though, because a lot of them are jealous. So I'm not concerned about them. But in terms of the people in the different cities who support my work, I'm a little disappointed that some of them haven't even donated $1 yet. But But I'm not extremely shocked. Why do I say that, Brother Gus? Because when my book came out, the people who bought my book primarily were people who supported me but didn't really know me intimately. A lot of people who knew me intimately didn't buy my book. A lot of people whose children I helped did not buy my book. So I've already learned that people don't necessarily reciprocate the good you do for them. I've already made peace with that, you know. But this ain't about that. This is about going forward to August the 21st. I'm going to say right now, in the presence of my ancestors, that we are going to get this money. We are going to get it. We're going to get more than what we need. I got people working on entertainers for me. I got people working on actors. I got people working on athletes, doing everything they can. I got some things in the mix, y'all. But in case they fall through, I need y'all. So I need y'all to go ahead and donate that money right now, $1 a day from everybody who knows me from now to August the 21st gets the school purchased. $1 a day. Please tell me our children are worth $1 a day.
Okay, let's see. Next person that dialed in, the caller. I guess she dialed in from a block number. Do you have a question for Dr. Umar?
Yes, can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Hello, good evening, Dr. Umar.
Good evening.
Yeah, my name is Michael, and I just want to quickly say that I fully support you, and the video you released was amazing and gave me chills, like the other caller said. It makes me wish I could have a second childhood, to be honest. But I just have two quick questions. One, will there be international students accepted at the school, or some sort of an exchange program?
Mm-hmm. And what's the other question? I'm going to answer them together, good brother.
Okay. And the other question is, I hate to even get up, but I just need to ask the question so that if I try to convince somebody to donate, then I can have all the information. But it's basically, what will you do with the funds if for some reason you do not make your goal?
Okay. Good question. I don't have a problem with that. Let me answer the first question. Now, the name of the school is the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey RBG International Leadership Academy. That means children will be chosen to go to the school from a lottery. Anyone who wants to apply to have their child go from anywhere on the planet will be able to have the child go. So children could come from London, they could come from Jamaica, they could come from Nigeria. It does not matter. It will be a fully international school. We will have an international student base. Yes, it will be. Now, because the school will be in Virginia, and because the school will be in America, and because most of the money that's going to be raised by the school is likely to be raised by us here in the States, what I'm going to have to do is create a balanced lottery that gives African children in the States slightly more chance of being selected in the lottery than their brothers and sisters from other parts of the world. That's only fair. If $4.5 million of this money is raised by blacks in America, it's only fair that their children have an increased likelihood of being selected. I'm sure everybody can agree to that. So that will happen, but it will be international. And it will be international staff, which is why I know Gus has some international listeners. Please spread the word. I want the staff to be thoroughly Pan-African. I would like to have a teacher from every African country. I would like to have a teacher from every country on earth. I would like to have a teacher from London. I would like to have a teacher from Asia. I want one from Jamaica. I want one from Bahamas. I want one from Brazil. I want one from Venezuela. I want a teacher from Canada. I want it to be a thoroughly Pan-African teacher base. I want it international in terms of student as well as in terms of teacher. Now, your second question, what will I do with the money if the school, if we don't raise enough to buy the school, or if someone offers them an amount of money they can't refuse? Because after all, somebody could call the president tomorrow and say, we got $20 million, and just blow Umar Johnson out the water. You know, if that be the case, then the logical next step would be what? Dr. Umar has to refocus his attention on another campus. On another campus. In fact, everybody listening to this show tonight, if you say, what can I do to help you? In addition to donate. The most you can do is donate. That's the number one thing. So don't get out of donate. There's nothing you can do if you ain't going to donate. So the first thing you do is you donate. Second thing you can do, help Dr. Umar locate other residential schools for sale. I hear that there's almost 20 black schools that are either shut down or will be after this year. Find out who they are and text me the name. That's all you got to do. Text it right to my phone, 215-989-9858. Dr. Umar, I was doing some research, and I found out such and such school is for sale. And here's the number you can call or the website to find out what they're asking for. That's all I need. And it doesn't have to be black schools. It might be a white school. You might know of a small white private school that went under due to the economic recession that's up for sale. Send me the information, y'all, because y'all know I'm busy, so I need y'all to help me. The biggest thing y'all can really do right now is help me find other campuses for sale in case we don't get this one. Although we want this one, although this is the number one choice, if you can find some other places for me to investigate, that would be the next best step, because if we don't get St. Paul's, then we're going to take all the money that we do raise and put it to the next school. So when you donate, you're donating with the guarantee that your money is going to be used to purchase a school. What you're not guaranteed is which school it's going to be. We're hoping it's St. Paul's. But if it ain't St. Paul's, then it will be another school. But all the money will go to school purchase or school operation. There's nothing to worry about on that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Let's see. Make sure. Yeah, I think the folks that dialed in now. If Joe from DC, if you wanted to get your other question in.
Yes, sir. Dr. Umar, my question is, you actually touched on this a little bit, but I wanted to see if you could reiterate on this. One of the things that I noticed in my research was that after a lot of our black leaders were assassinated, one of the key things that I noticed was that a lot of the civil rights leaders were given government jobs. And I noticed that once they got those government jobs, the phrase came out, well, I don't want to lose my good government job. And a lot of the civil rights leaders, when they left, because of, Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and so on, was either assassinated or they were put in jail. So there was no one left to fight. And a lot of the older civil rights leaders all took government jobs. And once they took government jobs, they really didn't want to lose their good government jobs. And a lot of us were kind of just left. I'm here in Washington, D.C., and I grew up in Northeast Washington, D.C., and we were just kind of out there fighting on our own. And a lot of the blacks who was in the neighborhood, they actually moved to Maryland, they moved to Virginia, they moved to gated communities. So I'm one of the few blacks who talk about where you get an education. I have my master's degree. I did not leave the hood. I bought my house in the hood. I still live with my people, and I talk to my people every day. So I listen and try to practice some of the things that you talked about. But I wanted to know if you could actually touch on that again, as far as staying in the neighborhood. And then you also talked about how when African Americans get education from these white institutions or even black institutions, it's geared more to get you out of the neighborhood than staying in the neighborhood.
Without question. We had this conversation when I was in Cincinnati, Ohio, yesterday. And that is, I said that based on my analysis and my study, that college has hurt black people more than helped it. As you said, it distances black people from the community. It motivates them to move away from their people. It creates a I'm better than everybody else mentality. And even if it doesn't do all that psychologically, economically, it puts black people in debt. We got over 2 million black people with master's and doctorate degrees in this country who cannot find a job. So college has not been a blessing, which is why the new school that I'm building, and any school, should focus on teaching our children skills that allow them to earn a living without college. We have to go to a economic system that does not require college education, an educational system that does not require college. I'm teaching our children how to be farmers. I'm teaching our children how to be real estate persons. I'm teaching them how to be able to make a decent, healthy living without a single day in college. That's my purpose. My purpose is not to prepare kids to go to college. It is not. My purpose is to prepare them to go into business. That's what I'm working on. So you're absolutely right, my brother. Absolutely right. You know, that whole college education, miseducation of the Negro, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, he hit it on the nose. The college-educated black is seldom of any use to his race. The education that he gets tends to take him away from his people more so than links him into his people. So we have to create an alternative. This is the year. This is the year. This summer is the year of reflection. 100 years of Garvey, 60 years of School D.C., almost 150 years of so-called emancipation, 50 years of civil rights. This is the reflection year. Where do we go from here? We got to reflect on everything. We have to analyze everything. Nothing is beyond scrutiny. Nothing. And I know I make some of my elders mad when I talk about this whole history worship thing that we got going on in the black community. You know, I don't think it's serving us well. I think we need to teach our history. I think it is important. I think it is critical. I think we should continue to do it. But we shouldn't continue to do it if we're not going to build opportunity for our children. Our children need opportunities more than a history lesson. You cannot teach a hungry man. You cannot teach a homeless man. You cannot teach a naked man. Dr. Amos Wilson used to speak on this, which is why I think he and I are very similar in our approaches. And obviously, he's my number one scholar of all time, without question, because he was the most relevant one. He dealt with the practical issues of black people. He wasn't an escapist. We have a lot of escapists in the black community. We got dietary escapists. We got historical escapists. We got religious escapists. We got conspiracy theory escapists. And what is an escapist? Because I want to make sure people understand me. When I say somebody is a dietary escapist, I'm not saying that dietary science is not important. That's one of the cornerstone sciences that's going to be taught at my school. A dietary escapist is someone who tries to reduce the problems of black people down to eating right. Even if you eat right, you got to deal with white supremacy. Even if you eat right, you got to have a job. So escapism is a strategy of trying to offer a overly simplistic solution to the problems that affect black folk, because your ass really ain't interested in solving them. A historical escapist isn't a historian. Even I teach history all the time, okay? But a historian escapist is someone who wants to reduce the problems of black people to simply knowing your past. That is incorrect. Conspiracy theory escapists try to reduce black people's problems down to understanding the conspiratorial nature of white supremacy and not dealing with anything beyond that, okay? You got all types of escapists. I'll give you a good example of an escapist. Many of y'all remember Tony Brown of Tony Brown's Journal, a very conservative, elitist Negro who I believe took over the journalism program at Hampton, but I heard he did an excellent job. So I definitely want to praise the work that he did at the historically black college, whether it was Hampton or another place. I heard he came in, cleaned it up, turned it around, and put it to action. I commend him for that. But he was a technology escapist. And what do I mean by that? When people would ask Tony Brown about racism, and I've seen him give a lecture when I went to Millersville University, you know what he said? When people asked him about white supremacy, Gus, he said, it's not about race. It's about having the computer literacy necessary to take hold of the future. He said the future is not going to belong to black or white.
The future is going to belong to the children who can program computers and who can read computer language and who can build. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Now, of course, he said this years ago, and hopefully he changed his position if he's still around, and I believe he is. If he's not, bless him, but I believe the brother's still here, okay? That's what you call escapism. He dealt with racism by saying we need to teach our kids how to use computers. You get other people deal with racism by saying we just got to learn our past. Other people deal with racism by saying we got to know who the Illuminati is. Other people just make sure you eat vegetarian food. That is not enough. There is no magic bullet, and I don't like escapists. Fighting this problem we got is going to take hard work and elbow grease. What I'm trying to do to raise this money for the school, hard work and elbow grease. Hard work and elbow grease. You see. So that's, I know I've said a lot, but that's what I want to offer to the conscious community. Stop talking and start building.
We had person slipped in, got a hand up. The caller at 4505. Caller at 4505. Did you have a question for Dr. Umar?
I do. Greetings, Dr. Johnson. How are you?
Greetings, Queen.
I have kind of a two-part question. The first question is in response to what you mentioned about your conscious scholar constituents and how they have yet to monetarily support your efforts with the school.
Yes.
So my question to you is, has any of those constituents offered to create curriculum in their areas of expertise, or at the very least want to mentor your staff and or students?
Okay, good question. Respectfully, I'm not looking for any of them to write curriculum for me, and I'm not looking for any of them to mentor staff or students. I have a team of educators who I trust, who are experts in the field, not experts because they give lectures, but experts because they really know this. And those are the people who I'm going to be relying on. I know we do have expertise within the conscious community, but I've already assembled a very, very effective team of people that I'm going to need. And although I still have room for more, I'm being very careful who I bring on board. But I'm not in need of anyone from the conscious community in terms of curriculum development.
Okay. And the other part of my question is in regards to updating your progression of this process, meaning that my personal opinion of Facebook and Twitter and all the good stuff, to your point earlier about how the CIA and the FBI has their eyes on you, and certainly they're monitoring your social network accounts and such, and so it's not a great forum to identify details of your progression with this huge project. So
I totally agree. And that's exactly why, in addition to the fact that they're going to take 10% of the money, that's another reason why I really didn't go with the crowdfunding sites. I don't think it's necessarily good security for me, and I just don't think it's good business savvy in general with the magnitude of this project to have it publicized on a crowdfunding site, and even stepping away from the money. Even when you're dealing with the details of the curriculum and the operational plan and the personnel plan, okay, and the financial plan, I'm not making a lot of that stuff public. I will have to when significant investors step to the table. Some of the people we're trying to get to actually donate or invest in the school, they may require all of that. And they have a right to it. If you're about to give $500,000 or even $250,000, you have a right to see that stuff. But outside of that, I agree with you. It needs to stay confidential. But I apologize for cutting you off. Go ahead, sis.
No. You answered my question because, I think our heads in the same place. I mean, I'm very uncomfortable making detailed comments and such on Facebook and such because of the all eyes on us making progression and change, and that's the problem, in my opinion, with our people in the past and in the present. We talk too much in the sense of we telegraph our moves. We let them know what we're planning to a fault. It's okay to, identify the community and let them know what we're trying to do, but as far as details and intricacies of our plan is not to be televised, is not to be identified in such public places. So I just want to give respect to you. The young lady who texted you a couple of days ago, Charla, about asking you when you're coming to Atlanta. But, we'd really like to see you here before the summer is over. But according to your schedule that you mentioned earlier in this broadcast, doesn't sound like you'll be here pretty soon. So I guess I'm going to have to travel to where you are in the next couple of weeks.
I appreciate that, Queen. I'm definitely going to get back to Atlanta. It was supposed to be this weekend coming up, but the brother had to postpone the lecture. But it's still going to happen. We just ain't got a date. It'll probably be early fall. But you're definitely more than welcome to come to any of the other events. I don't know if D.C. would be feasible or if Houston would be feasible from Atlanta. I'm trying to think. Newberry, South Carolina is coming up, but I don't have a date. North Carolina, but that's not until Kwanzaa, Greensboro. I was trying to think of a place that's close. Nashville, Tennessee is coming up, but I ain't got the date for that. South Florida, I'll be doing a week-long tour in South Florida from August to 17th, which is Garvey's birthday. I'll be celebrating that at Fort Lauderdale. And then I do Miami, Orlando. What's the other place? I'm forgetting the other place, but I'm going to be in South Florida for like 8 days. So I know Florida is the next state down, but it is South Florida. And so with Florida being so long of a state, that could technically be considered like 3 states down. But
exactly. It can take 12 hours in some places. But, well, that's fine. I mean, D.C. is kind of close. It's not too far. So I'll consider that lecture, and the worst case scenario, we'll find something else to connect with. But just want to say I appreciate all of your efforts. And to your point, don't worry about the 1%. Just focus on the 99% that has your back. So continue the great work, and we look forward to your success.
Thanks a lot, Queen. Thanks a lot. And also, what I want to say in response to my comment earlier that I hadn't gotten any donations from any of the conscious lecturers, that's not to demonize. And I want to be clear on that, because I don't want to start any unnecessary controversy. I know there's people who would love to get into a back and forth with me to get more attention drawn to themselves, and I don't want to feed that, and I'm going to ask y'all not to feed that, because I know how some of us like to start trouble too. Let that go. It's a fact. It's been noted. It may change as the 3 months goes along, but I don't consider them to be bad people because they didn't donate to my fundraiser. I don't think they're obligated to donate to my fundraiser. It's just a point of behavior that probably needs to be stated. That's all. But if I see a brother or sister in the conscious community, I'm going to shake their hand, have conversation. I don't hold grudges, and I don't expect people to do anything other than what they do. I'm a psychologist, and I know how the Negro mind works. I've been in the conscious community for a while, and I know how they work. So let's not make an issue of that. For you to make an issue of conscious lecturers not donating to Dr. Umar's fundraiser would be anti-revolutionary and anti-progressive. Why? We need this to stay positive. We need it to stay positive. We don't need this going into a thing where people are being made to feel that they got to give. That's not what we want to do. I don't want people dropping posts and saying, you ain't nothing if you ain't gay. We don't need to do that. Just keep on being positive. Help Dr. Umar. He could really use it. I want positive energy around this, brothers and sisters. The ancestors demand positive energy. Please don't put any negative energy around this fundraiser. Even if you think you're doing it for me, you're not. You're taking away from the spiritual momentum of the project. Keep it positive, and like the sister said, focus on those who are, don't focus on those who are not.
Awesome. Thank you.
Right on. We almost did our full broadcast. I did want to double check because I was trying to get that book that you mentioned earlier on charter schools.
Yes.
And I checked, you said it was How Teacher Unions Destroyed Public Education. I checked, I just wanted to see if I got it correct. This is listing it as The Worm in the Apple, How the Teacher Unions Are Destroying American Education by Peter Brimlow. Is that it? Or is a different book the one
I thought it was Lieberman. I thought that sounds like the right cover though, but I thought the author was Lieberman. If you can, Gus, type in is it Silverman? Lieberman? I thought it was a like a Liebermann or Silverman. I thought it was Lieberman.
Okay, I'm putting.
But your description of the cover sounds just like it though. But I'm pretty sure it was a Lieberman or a Silverman. But that sounds like it, so I might have had the name wrong. But your description of the cover is the cover, like an apple with like a worm.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it.
Okay.
I think that's it.
In
fact, if you could email me that cover or text me that cover. Let me look at it, then I'll know for sure.
Okay, I'll email it to you right now. I'll check Lieberman too and see if anything similar in the ballpark of that title pops up. But I definitely want to research that. I would encourage folks who are listening in, if you have children or if you're just concerned about Black people in education, you might want to check that book out as well, because the charter school issue is going to be big, continuing. Two last ones I wanted to get in, just in terms of information. You talk about confusion and $500 billion being spent with regards to mass media and just controlling the way people think and what even people think of as news and information. What are some of the news sites that you go to on a regular basis to get information?
I subscribe to the to the Wall Street Journal, not because it's always accurate, but it gives me a pretty good comprehensive overview of the current issues. Maybe not the truth, but the issues. And then it's my job to follow up after that to actually find the facts of the case. I read USA Today as well to look for patterns of things across the country. That's how I'm able to tap into new agendas, because I see the same thing going on from city to city, like how we talked about the property tax, the 10-year abatement. You see that going from city to city, and you automatically know that that's an ethnic cleansing agenda. So the USA Today is good. I think the Nation of Islam's Final Call is a very good newspaper for national Black news. I also go on the Black news networks, but unfortunately a lot of them deal with a lot of the sensational news, athletes and entertainment stuff that's not relevant, and integrationist-based news, which we don't really care about. But the bottom line is you got to get news from different sources. BBC, newspapers directly from Africa. You have to really, to get the accurate info, you got to really piece together from different sources to try to find out who's telling the truth. It's like 3 people come to you with the same story about the same event. But everybody's story is a little bit different. But because of your own analysis, you're able to piece together exactly what happened based on the 3 stories by looking at what they shared and what they had and what they differed on. And then you're able to kind of see what might have really happened, because you can never be absolutely certain. So that's why it's good to get your information from as many different sources as possible. It's like when you're doing an investigation. You want to talk to all the witnesses. The more witnesses you talk to, the more details you get about a particular situation, and the better able you are to piece together what may have really happened, because you can never know for sure. So my advice to everybody is to get as much different information as you can from as many different sources as possible.
Definitely dig that. Last one I wanted to get, and just kind of in that same vein, that's something I attempt to do on a regular basis, daily basis, just checking multiple sources. The recent piece, Black male writer in the Atlantic, Ta-Nehisi Coates, his piece on reparations, it's been everywhere. He did an interview. He was on Melissa Harris Perry's program. He was on Democracy Now!, he was on Bill Moyers, he was on NPR. I tend to be, and this is really just in the spirit of Minister Malcolm X, where he said anything that makes white people happy makes him suspicious. Pretty much I take the stance, anything that white people, like I don't see white people having Neely Fuller Jr., you, Dr. Welsing, Dr. Claude Anderson. I don't see white people going to give them a large platform to talk about their latest work or their views on what's happening with black people. I've never seen that. Just in the last 2 weeks alone, he has been everywhere talking about this piece in the Atlantic on reparations. He is a black male, so I don't have beef with him. He's doing what he's doing. But just if you've seen the piece, do you have any thoughts on why white people have amplified this piece so much? And for the most part, when I've seen white people interviewing him, they have not been yelling at him, disagreeing. They've been very cordial and even seeming like they're agreeing with some of the things that he's putting forth.
It's because his approach to the subject matter, Brother Gus, because I've seen some of his interview, his approach to the subject matter is very liberal. In other words, he makes some fine points, some excellent analyses, but he does not demand the reparations. He does not speak of the role of white supremacy as firmly as I would, or Dr. Wilson, or as a Claude Anderson. So he's tolerable. That would be the best way to say it. He is tolerable because he doesn't draw some of the hard, honest conclusions about the situation. The radical redistribution of wealth, the continuing racism that exists on every level that keeps black people from accessing the capital. The truth that all white people participate in racism and no one is outside of it. He's good, and I commend my brother, but he's very careful not to ruffle feathers. He deals with it very academically without an activist edge to it. So he's tolerable because they know he's not going to do nothing with it. Let me give you a comparison. Another person who I respect very much, as I do my brother, Dr. Michelle Alexander. Her book, The New Jim Crow, is excellent, but she's tolerable because she's not leading a revolutionary movement to overturn the criminal justice laws as written. She can't because she's married to a prosecutor. You see? So these are my sister, Dr. Joy DeGruy. I love her. Very strong sister. But the way she deals with post-traumatic slavery and the way Dr. Umar deals with post-traumatic slavery, she's a little bit more tolerable because it's more academic. See, they come from an academic perspective, which means we're going to deal with the information and we're going to deal with the subject matter. We are not going to deal with the organization to push these things through. That's what makes me a threat and not them, because they will write the book, they will write the article, they will talk about it, they will intellectualize it, but they are not going to organize the brothers and sisters in the hood to fight and bring the changes. They are academics, Gus, not organizers.
Wow. I think, and this might apply for a lot of folks, not just the individuals, the other scholars that you mentioned, Dr. DeGruy and Michelle Alexander. I said, and it's really even not a criticism for me, it's just an observation. The last time that you were here, when you did your prayer to close out the program, you referenced white man, white woman, white child as our eternal enemies. And I said, when I was looking at all of these different interviews and I read the article, I said simply, when you come to a conclusion about white people and their relationship to black people, non-white people worldwide, when you come to a conclusion that white people are not going to stop practicing racism, that they are going to terrorize black people forever, eternally, you end up in a very different place in how you go about trying to solve this problem, as opposed to when you think, oh, well, maybe it's not all of them, or maybe they can be redeemed, or maybe if we just, do enough talking, give enough lectures, write enough books, that they will see the light and they will stop doing this. You end up...
Exactly. All mainstream scholars, and as you said, we're not criticizing, because I love them sisters and I love what my brother is doing. I recommended Dr. Joy DeGrew's book. I recommended Sister Michelle's book. I have nothing but respect for my sisters, and I want to be clear about that. These are not criticisms. These are just analyses of the distinctions between different scholars' approach to their work. I want to be clear about that, because I know people like to start trouble. But you're right, Gus. The difference between a Dr. Umar Johnson and other mainstream scholars is I know reconciliation is not possible, and I'm willing to say that. I know that white supremacy cannot be redeemed, and I say that. They do not. The biggest difference between me and the other scholars is they believe in the redemption of white people. They believe that white people can stop practicing white supremacy. They believe in moral persuasion. They are all basically integrationists also. That's another thing. None of them preach self-determination, not on a firm Garveyite level. They do not. They're all basically they're not threats to the system. Can we just be honest? They are not threats to the system. That's the bottom line.
I would agree. That you would not see them all over the place if they were, in my opinion. Definitely encourage everyone listening to the program live or listening to the archives. Visit the website, which again is drumarjohnsonschool.com. Should be linked, but in case you don't have the link for whatever reason, again, it is drumarjohnsonschool.com. You can get all the information you need about the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey RBG International Leadership Academy. Invest, contribute. Doesn't matter what the fee is, just invest in this project in supporting Black children. Dr. Umar's effort to provide an independent academic institution to get away from all of the white terrorism that Black students and Black faculty, teachers, everyone experiences on a daily basis. Visit the website and invest. Share the link, see if you can get other folks to invest as well. As always, it is a thorough privilege to have you on the program just to learn. I hope people were taking notes, writing down information, not just spectating, but being active listeners to really benefit from what we've heard the last few hours. Anything you would like to share in closing out the program?
I would just like to say again to you, thank you. I didn't know it's been a year since my last time on the show until you said that. But I can tell you that the Context of White Supremacy interviews are some of, the most popular ones that I have. When I travel, I always keep them on the CD for folks who want those. And I'm sure this one will be no different. And I just would ask everybody to continue to support Dr. Umar, continue to support my work. If you can get to Pittsburgh, I'm looking to see you there. Richmond, I'm looking to see you there. D.C., I'm looking to see you there. Canada, I'm looking to see you there. Ghana, I'm looking to see you there. The Bahamas, I'm looking to see you there. Los Angeles, I'm looking to see you there. So a lot of dates. Georgia State University, Brazil, wherever you can, come and support Dr. Umar. Make sure you give to the fundraiser. Spread the word. Do some research. Help me find some other schools in case we don't get this one. But this is the one we want, brothers and sisters. Pray on it, libate on it, fast on it, meditate on it. It's our time. We got to seize the time. We got until August the 21st. Please get behind me and push and push and push and let us get to school for our children. That's all I ask. Parents, if you ever need to reach me and need help with your children, Dr. Umar Johnson at yahoo.com, drumarjohnson.com, drumarjohnsonschool.com. You can also search Dr. Umar Johnson School on YouTube. Phone number, anybody needs to text me. I don't answer if I don't know who you are, but you can always text me if you don't feel like emailing, 215-989-9858, 215-989-9858. Make sure you go to Dr. Umar Johnson School and do your donation. And make sure you join the text club. Text Dr. Umar to 36,000 on your cell phone. Text DRUMAR on your cell phone to 36000 so you can get regular updates of what I'm doing and where I'm going to be. Doesn't cost you any money.
Outstanding. Thoroughly enjoyed it. As usual, I hope folks in the listening audience, if you're going to be in some of his upcoming locations, go out, support, try to encourage some of your other relatives, friends, folks that you care about to go out and support as well. We will be back later in the week, and just thanks again to everybody who tuned in, folks who called in, folks who listened, and certainly even to the folks who listen in on archives. Thank you for supporting the program and continue listening. Context of White Supremacy. We normally do our prayer to wrap things up at the end. Would you like to give us our prayer to wrap up the program?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir, I would. I would like to say to the great divine masculine and feminine force of the universe, Olofin, Olorun, Olodumare, Amen Ra, Nyame, Chikwu, the Almighty Divine Creator, to bless me with this project. Bless Brother Gus with his work. Bless all the scholars, all the brothers and sisters out there teaching and spreading the information. Bless them. Bless us all in our travels. Please help that we are successful. Send our personal ancestors, our Eguns. Also send our collective ancestors, our Agungo, to support us in the Ada. May the Orisha be with us. May Yemoja and Obatala. May Shango and Ogun. May Eshu Alegba be with us. May Babaluaye, may Abeji be with us. May Oya and Oshun be with us. May Ochozi be with us. May all divine manifestations of the one supreme divine consciousness aid us in everything that we do. May we overcome white supremacy. May we improve our families. May we improve our relationships with each other. May our men improve their relationships with their women, and may our women improve their relationship with their men. And may all parents improve the quality in which we raise our children and improve the relationships we have with our children. May Almighty God aid us in remembering our ancestors and tapping into that energy. May Almighty God aid us in living a righteous life, aid us in living a courageous life, aid us in being optimistic and firm and committed and resolved in our belief to build an independent heaven on earth for ourselves. And may we be absolutely fearless in the face of white supremacy. May the Most High God forever be within us and be above us and be beside us as we fight this fight for global African redemption. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe.
Ashe. Context of White Supremacy. Signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
I'm a victim, brother.
Problem. You're a victim.
Yeah. I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning.
Shut up.
The man has programmed my conditioning. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.